Okay, let's see. Let me check the other. Okay, wait, it doesn't show it yet. All right, cool. There it is. All right. Okay, welcome to episode number 75. Or, yeah, open chat number 75, I should say, of the Black Brain Trust Higher Learning. Um, Want to welcome Brain Trust contributor Johnny Blaze to the panel for this discussion. This is kind of like what is it, like a part two, Johnny Blaze? We did like the fatherhood one.
Yeah.
And then we were going to talk about education, right? So this one, Johnny Blaze put together a PowerPoint, and we're going to just talk about what's the right way to pursue higher education. And again, this is a follow-up on the previous conversation because, we're looking at the future here. And we were talking about it from a fatherhood perspective. Now, this is also being looked at from an educational standpoint. Johnny Blaze works in the field and, has some very keen insights on it. So wanted to kind of, just get this conversation rolling here. And yeah, man, what's going on with you, Johnny Blaze, man? What you got on it?
Hey, not too much. So just a little background on me personally. I did 25 years in the military. Now I'm retired. I now teach college. While I was in the military, I actually taught the career field that I do, which is actually radiology. That's what I teach. And that's what I've done pretty much my entire career. So, but, coming to work in a college, I began to see a lot of the unique things that, you don't see on the front end. So I'm trying to look at this from the back end. And when you did your whole commentary the other day about the new age society, I thought about this. I'm like, okay, let's look at this from, a new society going forward. And let's look at it from two perspectives. Let's look at it as a parent who has a child who's about to graduate high school and go into the workforce. But let's also look at it maybe as the child themselves or an adult who's working and want to change careers.
Right.
So those are about the three different ways you can kind of look at this.
Okay. So I've got the PowerPoint up here.
Okay.
And then we'll go ahead and start going through this here. Now, I want to make sure I'm not skipping. I'm using our keyboard. So this is the first slide right here.
That's the first slide. Yep.
Okay. Now, you said refer to the high value matrix.
I did.
I have to. I'm gonna have to dig that one up. I know it's you know what? Here's what we'll do. We'll go through the slide.
Yeah.
Right. And then once we go through the slide, I'll dig it up. I can find it.
Yeah.
The one that Zero has, I can find it.
Okay.
So we'll pull that up and then we'll refer back to it. But just in terms of what type of job you want and referring to the high value matrix. So the high value matrix essentially consists of three parts. It was what you're passionate about, your ability to make money at something, and do you love it or not? Okay, it's a Venn diagram, and I'll pull it up so we can get a visual of it. But it's essentially comprised of those three notions right there. And if we're looking at the slide here, do you think you'll enjoy it? Will it come easy to you? Do you think it'll pay you well?
And I think those are questions that all three can ask. The student can ask this. If there's someone who's still in high school, the young adult who's currently working, or better yet, they may be a young adult and not have a job, and then of course the parent. So all three of those individuals are probably going to ask that particular question. Now, most individuals, I think particularly young adults and maybe kids, the question they're going to probably ask themselves, well, will I enjoy it? And I think number two, most parents are probably going to look at number three. Is it going to pay you well?
Right. And then it's that middle one.
Yeah.
Right. Because oftentimes we don't really know what actually comes easy to us when you really think about it, right? Because a lot of times when you ask somebody, well, what do you like to do? And oftentimes people don't really have like a actual interest or a hobby or you know, um, something that they like that just they will do at leisure.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's an indicator of something that comes easy to you.
So,
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Like, I do a lot of student orientations.
Mm.
And a lot of times we, before COVID, we would do these career days or career fairs, and people would come to the university and look at the variety of jobs that we would teach.
Mm-hmm.
And I would always get folks asking me about, okay, what's involved in X-ray? How easy is it? I said, well, that ease factor kind of depends upon each individual.
Mm-hmm.
We deal with a lot of angles, then, how to manipulate the body. But we also deal with the X-ray machine. And if you really think about it, an X-ray machine is nothing more than a giant ray gun.
Yeah.
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 But there is some science involved there. So I know some, are highly excited, while others, they like, let me go over and try something else.
So we get to the next slide here. And we ask, does it require a degree? If yes, continue watching. If no, there's some relationship live streams I'm sure you can go and check out.
Yeah.
All right, wait a minute. So, okay, what do you mean by this?
Okay, so the other day, you guys were talking about different careers and different jobs. Not every job requires a degree. But if there's a job that you really want to do your research, find out, does it require a degree? Okay. Mm-hmm. And that means you have to go to college.
Yeah.
So you want to be doctor, lawyer, even an X-ray tech, you got to go to college. To be an X-ray tech, it requires a 2-year degree. There's no way around.
There's no way around it. Yeah.
So you have to go to college. You want to go work for, Tesla, SpaceX? Well, they have a variety of jobs that don't require a degree. Okay,
Yeah, they have a lot of jobs. Shoot, all you need is a GED.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, more so, this is designed for those. Okay, you know what? The job I want, it requires a college degree. Let me go get it. But I think there's a couple questions you need to ask yourself, which I have here on the slide.
Mm-hmm. Can it be automated? And how long will it last?
Yeah. And I didn't really think about this till one day I had a student who was doing one of those orientations. He was saying, how long do you see this career field being around? And I had to really think about that for a minute. Mm-hmm. Because as we get newer technologies, it's requiring less and less people to do the stuff. When I first got an X-ray, I'm back in the days of chemicals. I would go into a dark room. I would mix the developer and the fixer. I run the film.
Yeah, I learned that in junior high school.
Oh yeah, man. Mm-hmm. Did you ever do silver recovery?
No silver recovery. It was just doing photo processing, right, in a dark room.
Yeah,
that's what I learned. Yeah.
So that was that's part of X-ray school. We had to go through and do all of that and do the silver recovery. Well, right around the early 2000s, this thing called PACS was invented. That's the digital stuff. Well, guess what? When that came along, you got rid of the dark room, mm-hmm. but it also got rid of three career fields. It got rid of your dark room tech, it got rid of your file room tech, and your transcriptionist.
So one sort of change in processes took out basically 3 career fields
all in one. Yeah, and it was crazy. We on the front end, we like using the system, but when you think of the back end, who all the folks that were pretty much gone because of that. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, so this is where I kind of look at, you say, okay, do your research on the career to see if it's future proof, right?
Yeah.
And the question above it, does it require a degree? So I'm looking at degree, future proof. I'm thinking right off the bat, right? A couple live streams ago, somebody was asking about AI programs.
Right.
So micro degrees, that is a degree, right? And I would say that anything AI related is largely future proof for the most part, because AI is going to be hedged upon the future.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say that that would be one of those contrasting points you could make. Like if somebody was looking at, like you said, a career field where you have to think, man, this may be antiquated here in the next 2 years,
Correct.
5 years, versus something that's actually based on the future. So it's a pertinent question to ask right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. Determine the best school at the best price. Okay, so maybe to kind of follow the point I was just making here, let's just say, you are looking at getting into something like AI. You could spring to go to like a typical 4-year university, right, and become some computer science major with a minor in artificial intelligence or whatever, applied intelligence technologies, whatever they're calling the degree. And you could do that, or you could go and get a micro degree from a place like Udacity.
Mm-hmm. So now let's just say, we're looking at all these different combinations. One thing you guys mentioned the other day was transfer credits.
Mm-hmm.
And it is highly recommended and cost effective to start at that community college. And, when you ask, do you need a degree? Here's the other key component you need to ask yourself. This degree that you need, does it have to be, can it be a 2-year, or does it have to be a 4-year, a graduate, or PhD level? So those are the questions that are also need to be asked. And here, we have the community college versus the big name versus something that could be a hands-on type of training.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much you know about accelerated programs.
Accelerated programs. If I'm to think of one, I know of. Let's see. I remember. I think it was like, what is it? University of Phoenix.
Okay.
Used to have like one for business, like to get an MBA.
Mm-hmm.
They had one. I remember I worked with someone who took that. It was like in like a year and a half or something. She went from some job that she was doing to like high up.
Right.
Yeah.
So this, now I'm going to say this is kind of my personal opinion, and I think we have education in this country backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is you send your best and your brightest, those who really pick up things very fast, to the big 4-year universities where they spend, taking an absorbent amount of credits, just being in classrooms. I mean, those individuals probably should be in these accelerated high pace programs, because things for them come very natural. And I think your students who are, more academically challenged need to be in those longer institutions where they can go step by step.
You mean kind of like a GATE program?
If you want to call it that.
I mean, yeah, I'm trying to like maybe make a correlation to something similar, right? How like in school you had like the GATE program, right? So that was like accelerated learning.
You remember DeVry?
Yeah, DeVry. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. So I would say DeVry is going to be your accelerated program.
Okay. Yeah. DeVry. Yep.
So you could do a 4-year program in 2.5 years. So so you could do that thing in like 30 months instead of 48.
Right. With ITT Tech, another one.
Yeah. And I think sometimes the accelerated programs kind of get a bad rap, because that's typically where the folks who couldn't get into regular college end up going. They're not suited for those kind of things.
Well, they were just the precursors to like your Udacities and Udemy's today. Right. Udemy's today.
Yes.
That's all they were. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like I said, this is why I say we have this thing in this country, we have it backwards, because I think, I have a friend of mine, he told me once that, he went to DeVry, but he said like, he got a lot of great training there, because of him going there, he's he's well versed in SQL and other programming things.
Mhm.
But he says, the big universities offer something that the DeVries cannot. And
What,
that's
like employee,
yeah, the name.
like the name cachet or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Another thing that's really important, I think, when determining school, who gives good hands-on training? You know,
It's a great question.
yeah. So
Because I mean, so many of those programs, right, where they had like maybe like shop or lab and all that kind of stuff, they virtualized it all.
right. Now
Yeah.
you do micro transport, and a lot of the stuff that you do, I'm assuming that you're self-taught.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Mhm. Now
Yep.
you may have a natural knack for figuring how things work.
Yeah, that's kind of always been. I dropped out of college at like 17, man. Everything I do, I'll just put my hands on it,
Mhm.
and just learn it.
Right.
I'm a learn by doing type of person, right?
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
And I think most people typically are. And
Yeah.
when you come into, let's say, the STEM, or we call it what, this new age, society, or whatever we want to call this thing, you still are going to need some kind of hands-on training. It's
Hmm.
extremely important because most individuals are visual learners. And right now, I think with this, COVID transition, I try to teach X-ray physics by way of video. It
Hmm.
does not go well.
Man, it's the same with like my daughter and uh this going to school from home. It's all the kids, man. Because I had a parent teacher conference like late October, and it was very hard, for my daughter for like the first 2 months,
Right.
and then it was sort of like she kind of settled in, like, okay, this is what school is, right? And then she's kind of adjusted, but that is with like all of them.
Mhm. So,
There's just not being in a physical environment to touch and physically interact. Yeah.
now, imagine how hard it is for the children. It's also equally hard for the instructor.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm saying. The teacher's just like, pulling her hair out.
Because I know for me personally, when I teach my physics classes and I'll start going through on the whiteboard drawing things and we'll talk about stuff, I can usually see it in their faces when they don't understand something.
Hmm.
And I don't have that by way of the video camera.
Right. Right.
So that's one key thing to look at if you're looking at going to school. Even with COVID, find out who is still doing hands-on training. It's very
Mm,
important.
okay. And
Yeah.
then you said ask local employers.
Right. So let's just say you figure out the job that you think that you want to do. Okay, you may go by a local place. Let's say it could be a Tesla plant or SpaceX or something, or something in that realm. Okay, somebody who works there. Hey, is there a particular school that you recommend? Where did you go to school, or something along those lines? Because I know
Okay.
here, at least in my career field, in this local area, we send our students out to the local hospitals to work. Now, typically, because we have that relationship, a lot of times the hospitals will send people who may work in the hospital in a variety of career fields to us,
Hmm.
or somebody who's just asking about being a tech. They'll refer them to us.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that's very important.
All right. And then we need to also take a look at accreditation.
Oh yeah, so Dr. Phoenix really hit on this the other day. Um, so shout out to him. But accreditation is hugely important. So first up, let's talk about the institution.
Hmm.
So this is going to be the actual college or school itself. And there are two major types of accreditation. You're going to have regional and you're going to have national. So when it comes to regional, the United States is broken up, I want to say, into 9 regions. And the colleges kind of fall in the particular location. You're on the West Coast, so I think you fall under the Western Association of Colleges.
Okay.
I fall under the South, what was called SACs, Southern Association of Colleges.
Okay, I didn't know
And
that.
then you can have your national, which and covers the entire thing. Now, there is a huge difference between these two things. So regional carries more weight than national. And so a good example, if you're going to a regional school and you decide to transfer, you can go from regional to regional, and you can even go from regional to national. However, you cannot go from national
to regional.
No, sir.
Is it because national has what lesser like requirements?
I believe so. I've never, I don't know their full requirements. I did some looking up of the information. I almost went to a national college when I was in the military. And one of the, in the military, we have these folks called, they're like advisors. They help us pick out schools while we're on active duty. And basically, he pretty much told me not to go to that school because it was nationally accredited. And he kind of broke down how the accreditation process actually works. So I ended up transferring someplace else.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that really helped me out. But I think this is one thing that hopefully people will look at when they decide to go to a school is look at the accreditation. Particularly when you get into your higher level, baccalaureate or graduate programs, because Dr. Phoenix, this is what he was really alluding to, when folks are at that higher level and they're looking to transfer over. And if you're doing something like this, you can waste thousands of dollars having to retake classes.
Yep. I've had a couple of friends have to essentially kind of redo stuff because they switched.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, I got to go and take these courses. I have to do these because these aren't transferable and blah, 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 blah. But it's technically the same course. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. Yep.
There was a place on the West Coast. So there were these, when I was on active duty, I had two guys who both worked for me. They were cousins. And I was their supervisor at two different locations. And they went to a school out there. They're from California. Oh, man. Everest College.
Oh, God. Everest College, you guys don't know, that's like there was like I'm trying to remember who did a joke. Slink Johnson, I think that's who it was, the cat who played Black Jesus.
Yeah.
Man, just go like type in, go like just when you're free, type in Everest College of Slink Johnson, man.
Right.
And just go look up how he spoofed the Everest College video. That used to run on the TV out here on the West Coast back in the day, man. Like it was just like this cool street dude, and he'd just be like, "Yo, I just went to Everest College, and I just got my shit like that." You know what I mean? He's just talking like super cool. Everybody's like, "Is it that easy?" He just started throwing money at Everest College, dude, but you couldn't do nothing with anything you got there.
No, man. So okay, so so the two cousins, they both went to Everest College at the same time. And I guess, they realized, man, this thing is bunk.
Yeah.
So they both end up joining the Air Force. And somehow they end up getting into the same career field. Now, one of them I worked with in South Carolina. The other one I worked with in Florida. And because initially I didn't know that the two guys were cousins. And, me and the second one got to talking. And he's like, yeah, my cousin's also. And I'm like, wait a minute. But anyway, they both went to this college and they explained, what happened. They were in all this debt, and that's why they ended up joining the Air Force was to pay back all the student loans.
Oh shit!
Yeah, man. So,
and I mean, it's because you went to Everest College of all places. Good God!
Yeah, and because them.
Wait a minute. Wait. Dr. Phoenix said Master P's son Romeo did advertisements for Everest College.
Yes, he did. That's right.
Wait, hold on. We've been chopping up. Let me go through the comments here and salute everyone that's here. We got to chopping it up, man. We didn't welcome everyone. Sir Badayu, LOM, peace, brother. Doc Phoenix, Ado, peace. Channel 0, D Smitty. Top of the morning to you all. Professor Black Ops, welcome. Let's see here. Depends on where Denver's mechanical and hands-on training programs for people. Emily Griffin is an example. Profit can hit or miss, so can all colleges. Yeah, profit it can be hit or miss, but that's kind of the reason why we're like sort of dissecting a lot of this here. We're trying to kind of weed through a lot of the confusion of how to look at attending a school and choosing it, using the right sort of criteria, right? So the questions that we're asking, like, so for example, we're looking at accreditation, regional versus national. These are all things that in our reality, we should be looking at if we're talking about attending, higher learning institution, because like the example that Johnny Blaze just said there, you can go and get student loans and then go to a place like Everest College, where that's basically going to get you nowhere. And then you're just basically starting all over again with debt.
Yeah, literally. Okay,
and then
so
you got program right here.
Okay, so now this right here, you're looking at the individual programs within the college now. So
Okay.
this is something that a lot of folks really need to understand. Is the program itself accredited? Now, the accreditation for programs is going to be much different than the college. So let me give you an example of that. You can have a college that is has regional or national accreditation, but it can have a solid program that's accredited. And what I have on the screen are two examples. One is for radiography, and the organization that certifies us is called JCERT or JRC. And the other one is for sonography. And if you don't know what that is ultrasound. They have an organization called the ARDMS.
Okay.
And that's who actually certifies sonography programs around the country. I'm sure nursing, I believe is done by the individual state. Dr. Phoenix, he probably can confirm that in the chat. Okay. But those two things are national programs. Okay. And I'm sure there may be something, I'm not sure when it comes to how IT is done with certification. In most cases, with
IT, it's usually going to be based on like the actual. So, like for example, there's the CompTIA,
right?
There's Google IT certification. There's Microsoft certified system technician, something like that, MSCT or something. So they all have their
Right. But now I think when you go into the engineering side of the house, I think they have program accreditation just like we do. And this is actually what I'm working on. That's why I was at work yesterday. Even though I was off, I was getting ready for our inspection that's coming up. We have to do what's called an interim report. I got to put all this data together and review all this information and all these write-ups. And typically, if you are looking at a school, go to their website, go to their about section, and you will see the accreditation. You definitely need to go ahead and look at that. If you're a parent, if you're a student, if you're looking to go back to college, definitely check this stuff out. And whatever program you're looking to get into, see if they have some kind of accreditation, because the companies who do the actual accrediting, they have information on these particular schools. And a lot of times that is where you can actually go to figure out if they have a program in your area.
Right.
You should look with the accrediting bodies.
And then you can look, you're like, oh, no, they don't have anything here in my area. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here.
Okay.
Does the job have state or national requirements?
Oh, yeah. So you're going to have board exams. You're going to have board fees. They're going to be, do you need a state license on top of that? Do you need local and regional?
Right.
Yeah.
Because see, some states, you need certain things. Other ones you don't.
Yeah. So and I think this kind of comes into, people think, okay, I've gone to school, I've got the degree, I'm done. Nah. Because particularly in healthcare, we have continuing education that we have to do. That, number one, it costs money and it takes time.
Right.
And I can tell you, at least from the X-ray perspective, we got to do credits every 24 months. Mhm.
Every 24 months.
Yep. We got to, so every 2 years, you
Every
got to
2
have
years.
so many credits, continuing education credits. And of course,
Okay.
these
So then
things
that means one thing to consider here
Mhm.
is that that career choice, right, or that field, there's an ongoing educational aspect to it.
Yes. Because if I'm not mistaken, doesn't some of the STEM stuff like require you to recertify every couple of years?
I think what typically what they do is they'll have like a new certification,
Mhm.
right? So you have what you are certified in, but then there will be like new certifications that have like new stuff in it. And
Yeah.
then so that's when somebody's looking at, are you certified in this versus, you may not have a certification in it, but because you've been working in this,
Yeah.
you're already delved into it. You're already working in it, right? So that's kind of where the split happens,
Mhm.
where you have the certification in it versus do you have work experience in it, or is it, that's kind of your ceiling point, right? And
Right.
so the new certification that has sort of like the new technical the new technical courses, and you haven't even not even in your own work experience are you kind of delving into that. That's where then it handicaps you,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it's one of those three things.
Now, one more thing on this part right here, I think individuals should really look at is when they're doing their research on a particular career that they're looking into, is to look and try to find these requirements. A lot of times you can go to your state websites. You can really go to your state.
State board.
Yep.
Yep.
And you need to like really look at see what this stuff looks like, because some places require you to take not only pay a fee, but you got to do an extra exam. Like California, for instance,
Hmm.
they had this thing like you can go to X-ray school and you can get your license. Well, then they had what's called a fluoro license in order to operate a fluoro machine, the fluoroscopic. That's a
Right.
whole separate test
Dang.
plus a fee. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, for some reason, California, yeah, y'all got some
Because
real
man,
hard
California is just, that's why I think everybody's leaving.
yeah.
That's why right there, man. That's why everybody's leaving, dude.
No,
All the big companies, they're all like, man, retire this shit.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So let's see here. Let me do this. I'm gonna leave this up, but I'm gonna just do this so I can check the chat real quick.
Oh yeah.
So let's see here. New, what up, man? Darth Low IQ, what's going on? Welcome, y'all. Let's see. How many more slides do we have, Johnny Blaze? Because the only reason I'm asking, because when you want to drop the link.
We got 4 more.
4 more? Okay, hold on. Let me pull it back up. Oh wait, hold on 1 second here. Let's see. Okay, I just had a derp moment. All right, there we go. How to pay for school.
Oh yeah. And I'm sure like
how are we paying for this, Johnny Blaze?
Man, I'm sure like once you open this up, we're gonna probably hit this part real hard. But there are basically 4 ways to pay for school. Okay.
Okay.
Now, they're technically 5. The only one that's not up here is the GI Bill, and I purposely left that one off because that only qualifies to a small population. But you got
I noticed you also left off cash.
Well, that's pay as you go.
Oh, okay. You left off pay up front.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I don't know. Now I don't know how many individuals actually have saved money for their kids for college. I mean, but I know very few who did. I know like when I wanted to go to college, my mom didn't have the money for it. That's why I ended up joining the military.
Man.
Plus, my grades were kind of garbage coming out of high school.
Man, I tell you like this. Like my younger brother, man, he's still kind of salty over it. But I think it was back in 1998 or 1999. There was a bill that was passed, right?
Right.
that allowed for, I guess if you were a vet and you suffered PTSD in a war or something like that, there's all these benefits and stuff that they had extended to veterans. I don't recall it specifically offhand, but it was at that time that my dad was able to leverage was it like his GI or his veterans benefits or whatever, right?
Right.
And so my younger brother, and younger sister went to school like basically on military dime, and like me and my brother, we were like, "What the fuck?" Like, we were asked out in the situation, man. We had to figure it out for ourselves, but yeah, there was a way that it was paid for them.
Yeah. The pay as you go thing, this is really beneficial, particularly if you're going to do like the community college route.
Right.
Because if I think one thing a lot of folks don't do, they don't really compare all of the costs. So let's just say you take a big name university or even a for-profit university. Typically for profit, they're gonna cost you the most upfront, when you look at how much something costs. But if you look at other schools too, you really got to add up all the fees. And sometimes those price points are actually a lot closer than people think they are.
Right.
When it's all said and done. But this is something that you really have to look at is how are you going to pay for this? There's scholarships that exist, and there are a lot of scholarships.
A lot of them.
Yeah. I think Professor Black Ops said company reimbursement. That is huge. I got a buddy of mine. This guy goes to school because he understands how to leverage jobs. What he'll do, he'll figure out, okay, that's the first question he always asks, what's your reimbursement policy? And he uses that.
I used it for one semester of school. I used it.
Okay.
Where I had my job they reimbursed me.
I think some other schools also do student workers. So I think that's something to look at. I know.
Oh yeah. Like if you work in the library or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's a good little way to make money. And you mentioned the whole esports. My college, we have an esports team, so they get scholarships. What? Yeah, man.
Get out of here,
dude. We have a whole group, man. We got they have a nice gaming setup in there. I mean, it is sweet. Yes, they have they have a real esports team. And
that's a real thing, man. That's why I've been doing this. I've been starting to try to introduce this esports thing. They have a team.
They have a team. So we have multiple campuses. I think right now, I think we have 8 campuses, and I want to say 4 of them have esport teams.
Oh my God.
Yeah. They went before COVID, the team actually went out to Las Vegas to compete in something.
Man, and I'm over here trying to get us to compete in racing.
Yeah.
This is a real thing, y'all. I'm trying to tell you, that's amazing.
I didn't realize how big it was. We have every year we have a faculty conference. So last year we went to the conference. They came out there, and the president of the university got this says, "Guess and she came out there with this jersey on. Like, I'm like, are we getting a football team? And they're like, no, we got an esports team.
Dude, I have apparel that although I only have my logo on it, but I'm like, dude, I'd be down to get other people involved. I showed my car, and I'm like, hey, let's put some logos on this thing. Let's do an esports team. But dude, so you have a college esports team?
Yes, sir. And let me tell you how these guys actually advertise, man.
God.
So
go ahead.
Now my daughter and I, we're big into going to the Comic-Con type events.
Mm-hmm.
So here we
cosplay and all that.
Cosplay and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the esport guys always come to these cosplay events. They set up a little booth and they have the stuff set up. They break it out. And so they'll let the kids play around with it and they talk about it. I'm like, this is perfect. Wow. And that's how they advertise it.
Huh.
I mean, and you just can't get on the team. I mean, you got tryouts. You got the whole.
That's what dude. You can't join my team if you can't drive.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn, dude, that's some next level stuff right there. So you got esports as your athletics, quote unquote.
Yes.
Oh my God.
and mandatory practices.
Yep. That's what I mean. It's like it's you almost. I mean, I don't know if people can kind of wrap their head around it, but just imagine it being like you went to college and you're on the football team.
Yeah.
Right. You have like practice commitments and training, 2-a-days. You know what I mean? Wow. Okay.
Uh-huh.
How long is the program, Johnny Blaze?
Oh yeah. So that's going to kind of tie back to the program type, and this is where is it an accelerated program? Those classes, like my thing is kind of accelerated. So my folks, they come to school pretty much every single day. They're in class for at least 3 to 4 hours a day. They may have a class in the morning, have a class in the afternoon, then they go home, they do work. You're also going to be looking at your internships, externships. If it's medical, you're going to be going to your clinical sites. So all that kind of plays into it. So I'll just kind of give you an example. A typical X-ray program is 24 months, 2 years long. Where I work at, we train our techs in 18.
Okay.
So I always tell the students come in and say, look, it's like drinking from a fire hose. It's fast.
Yeah.
Okay. Some places may not do summer breaks. So pretty much you go to school all year round.
You go all year round. Yep.
Yeah. But the upside to that is you're done and you're working, while other folks, other places, they still in school.
They're still in school. Yeah. My buddy, man, so the Cal Poly schools out here in California they're on that system.
Yeah.
So my buddy he graduated the year after I graduated. So I graduated in 95. He graduated in 96. This dude, he graduated high school, and because of how the Cal Poly college system worked, he only had like 2 weeks off. Okay. So he graduated high school, literally was out of school for like 2 or 3 weeks, right? And then started college. And then he basically didn't stop until he got his JD. Like the dude that's what kind of Zen hyper focus shit he was on. Like he had a 3-week break out of high school, went to college, and then didn't stop until he had his Juris Doctorate.
Okay.
Yeah.
The guy was on a mission, and I think
that system that you were talking about, though. The reason why he committed like that, because it cut the time way down.
And I think, some folks, they want to get right to work, and this might be the best kind of thing for those individuals.
Yeah, if you're down to just crunch through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, I think academic time, look at the required amount of credits. I want to say, I think Black Torch mentioned something about this when he was going through engineering school.
Like credit hours or something.
Credit hours, yeah. Some programs are longer than others. Standard bachelor's degree, I want to say is 120 credits, so really look at what you're taking.
Okay. All right. And then we're going to go to seek solid advice. Yes. You can always come to venues like the Brain Trust.
Right.
Because, someone working in the field. Example.
Ask the questions, because I think this is going to tie you back to the very beginning. Hey, look, do you really want to do this kind of job? Okay, let's say you talk to them, they give you what you want to hear. Now, the admission advisors. Okay.
Right.
Their job is to get you in the seat. Nothing, I have a love-hate relationship with these folks sometimes.
Yeah, because my wife spent some time working as an admissions advisor, and she was good at it, right? But she also would have to talk with people who dealt with admission advisors that gave them all the wrong advice.
Yeah,
and she literally had to sort of undo the damage, so to speak. Yeah. So it's these type of people, yeah.
I look, the good ones are really good. The bad ones, I look at them like used car salesmen.
That is exactly what they are. Yep.
Yeah. Now I think, but the key thing is talk to either the program director or the program faculty. Now, I really want to clarify this here. The program director and the program faculty, these are the individuals who work in the actual program. So
Right.
this is not going to be your math professor, your English, your human, not those folks. These are the ones who deal in your core classes, because they are the ones, these are typically individuals who either worked in the field at some point or who understand all the nuances of the field and how to navigate all of the academics of that particular degree program.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the ones who are going to truly give you the actual breakdown. And it's one thing I didn't put on here, but you can always ask for the curriculum, ask for the curriculum, the actual guided curriculum that outlines everything, hours, what are the actual classes called,
Mm-hmm.
what are their course numbers?
Course numbers. Yeah, well, it's like, they got a course catalog or something like that, right?
Yeah, go to the course catalog.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's one thing I think a lot of folks don't really spend time doing. Look at what are the real required classes.
Because, a lot of classes, man, you might think that you have to take them and you really don't.
You don't. Because some you can transfer in, some you can't. When you're at higher level, sometimes some places will have a requirement. Hey, look, you can only transfer X number of credits in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's a question that you should be asking. But like I said, but hopefully if you get a good admissions advisor, they'll relay those to the program.
Exactly. That's what I mean. That's what they do. If they're really good at their job, they really do kind of break down and provide that pathway, and say, okay, if you're trying to do this, you're going to want to take courses, right? You want to do this. And because if you're trying to do this, but if you're thinking about doing this also, you might want to do this course.
Yeah.
It's, instead of just basically selling them on a pipe dream and saying, yeah, so are you going to enroll? Right. And then they get their bonus or whatever, Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's not for everybody.
Yeah. And let's see here.
Last slide.
No one to throw in the towel. Jesus Christ. All right. Pretty self-explanatory.
Okay, so I did this for a purpose. All is not lost here. But okay, and this is more so from the parent's perspective, just for a second. I'm gonna speak as a parent. Okay, your child's in college, they're struggling, they're going through. At some point, you're gonna have to realize, you know what? Maybe this might not be for you. Maybe the workforce is where you need to be. Because what you don't want to do is to spend all this money. This kid flunks multiple classes. You're on the hook for dollars and dollars and dollars.
Right.
Your child is stressed out. You're stressed out. At some point, you got to realize, hey, this isn't going to work.
Stop the bleeding. Okay. Gotta stop the bleeding.
You gotta stop the bleeding. Because man, look, you don't want to spend 50 grand. Next thing you know, your kid didn't graduate, or they did graduate in with a degree that they can't do anything with, or they don't like the job, or they barely even understand it.
I mean, man, look, here's what I did. I stopped the bleeding before it started, so I dropped out of college. Right. And
I had to pull my daughter out, because she just was not doing.
I was just like, you know what, man, this is about to be like 13th grade to me.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Let me just get on with it, man. Let me get out here and take my lumps and learn business, my own, because I'm a learn by doing type person, dude. So I had to really just go, it was trial by fire at first, and then it was learning from people who were successful, right? I quickly figured out that what I got to do is learn from people who have already done it.
Yeah.
So I started doing that like literally at the age like 20.
There you go.
20, 21. I would literally, I would call, I did this like 2 times. Like a bank exec or, business loan professional or what have you. I would schedule a appointment with them, and I would just to find out if they would fund a business like mine.
Okay.
And they would always tell me, like, you have a brilliant idea here, you have a great idea here. Now I was young, and really I just needed validation or confirmation that, you know, my ideas were viable.
Hmm.
You know, it's just much like the friend I was telling you about who basically went to school like out of this is my best homie, by the way. So we kind of think the same way. Like this is we're competitive with each other,
Yeah.
you know, and you know what he used to do was he would basically he stayed applying for jobs even though he had a job, right? And I asked one day, we were on the phone, and he was just like, you know, he was replying to an email about, you know, a law firm that wanted to have him come in to interview. And I was like, "Wait, dude," at the time, he was working for MTV. He was working in their legal department.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was like, well, dude, you're working at MTV in the legal department. Why would you want to leave there? And I asked him this. I said, why would you for? And he was only there for like a few months. And I was like, what are you doing? And like, I swear to God, this was his response. He was like, "Look, man," he goes, "What did he say?" He said, "I gotta let them know a nigga's worth, what a nigga's value is." And I thought about it. I was like, "Damn, that's cold." Like
Hmm.
he's on some shit. Like, look, I will stay put my employer on notice. Like, yo, if somebody else values me more than you do,
Okay.
right? So that was his whole thing on that. But no, I you know it was like a just a learn by doing, you
Yeah.
know, and learning that way. So yeah, sometimes, man, I don't know, the college thing just he was a college dude and got his degree, went about it. I was like, nah, I can't do school anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So know when to throw in the towel, y'all.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to.
Yeah. All right. So let's do this here, man. I'm gonna go step away for a coffee break, man. I gotta fill up.
All right.
I'm gonna drop the link and then we chop it up for a little bit. Cool.
Sound like a plan.
All right, man. We'll be right back. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and oh, I don't need to mute. I'm just gonna get some coffee, man. I'll be right back.
Okay. Let's see who we got in the chat. See, Super Triz, what's going on, man? It's been a while. Doc Phoenix, Professor Black Ops. Let's see, Flat Earth, Channel Zero. How you guys doing? Ajiza and D Smitty. Derek Mills, some people have to be laborers. Hey, you know what? Sometimes that's true. What's going, Medics 12? How you doing? And Richard Dixon, how you doing, sir? All right. More complex is away. I'm gonna grab me a quick Gatorade. All right, so see Richard Dixon, you over here downloading that Linux, man. Yeah. You know, actually, I actually went to networking school back in the early 2000s. Now I don't remember anything about it. So I've tried to learn a little bit of Linux, but all I can tell you is I remember what Red Hat, and I think there's Ubuntu. Oh, Black Ops on the Novell, man. I went to school for Windows NT. I did a year. I did a year-long boot camp, and then I went to a community college and I took a 3-day class on how to use Linux. And now I could barely tell you probably anything about that stuff now. Do my eyes deceive me? Is that Super Triz on the panel?
Yes, sir.
All right, y'all. I'm back. Triz, Professor Black Ops, Jisa. What's going on, y'all?
What's good?
What's going on, bud?
Oh, shit. Sorry, where's my phone?
What's up, Johnny Blaze?
Hey, how's it going?
Man, trying to teach them classes like you, man.
And
What did you think about the what did you think about the PowerPoint, the how we kind of broke down, you know, the approach to assessing how to go about attending college or school?
That was perfect, man. The only thing I would add is, yeah. Oh shit, is that me? I thought the slides were great, man. The only thing I would add is, in the program I teach, I teach at community college. As part of your semester, at the end, you can sit for your certifications. That's the only thing I would add. Is some colleges are doing that, but I thought everything in there was fine. Like I said, I added the reimbursement for work.
okay, I'll add that in.
Yeah, the reimbursement for work. Yeah,
You put the co-op in there because when I was in school, I had that work study, so I could work study. You know, you get so many stipends up to a certain dollar amount, and you put the work study in there. Everything else I thought was on point. I actually mentioned that on another panel, and they kind of almost laughed me out the panel, man.
Wait, what was it? What was this?
It was called because me and this lady was kind of debating. She was like, "Well, my son is super smart. He should go to 4-year college." I was like, "That's cool for the top 10%. What about the bottom 80% and the people who can't afford it and the people who, don't have the money?" So we were debating. So it was kind of weird at first. I think I got her thinking in that right direction, but it was kind of weird.
Can I say something?
Yeah, what's up, man? Go ahead.
How y'all doing?
What's good? What's good?
None much, man. Chilling. I will say this though. I kind of cringe. Me and Dr. Finks, we talk about this all the time though. But I kind of cringe when people say maybe that college isn't for everybody. I think there's always something you can get, and I say that because in our case as Black males, we're behind in that sense, and I don't look at college as something to necessarily transform you or make you a different person. To me, I look at it as the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And I think that it's something you can get. I'm a nurse now, but I still look at my career as an after-school job. This is not what I want to do, but it's afforded me to be able to do a lot of things. Like I talk to Triz all the time. I talk to Dr. Phoenix. I'm in the Bay Area right now working. Like, it's gangbusters over here. And I, I wish I had done this earlier. I don't think it's changed who I am or whatnot. And at the end of the day, it's a couple years off your life. Not even off your life. It's just a couple years you spend doing something. Now, in case some people might get like, some people, it might be a lightning, I guess, an instance of lightning strikes where they're able to acquire or attain certain level of success outside, external to getting any type of credentials. But I think it just helps to get credentials in the sense that it gives you a job, it gives you steady footing. I mean, I told Dr. Phoenix, man, if 15% of Black America were making at least $40,000 a year, the economic landscape in this country would change overnight. The totem pole would flip. So that's how I look at college.
No, it wouldn't, man. Like, let's make sure we don't do that, because what you have to look at is spending habits.
Well, I'm barring that. I mean, everything being equal, in the sense that making a little bit more money can just open up your horizons. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I know
but
what it's
also
like.
redirecting how you spend capital could also do the same, right? So what you're saying is maintain the same standard, just make a little bit more, so we can do supposedly.
No, I mean,
but what I'm saying is that that if you just add more money, you're just going to have more money to do the same things with. So we have to fundamentally actually change how we think.
That's a given. That's a given. I'm saying that if you're working at a UPS warehouse, so if you're working a warehouse job, I think Amazon starts at 15 an hour. That's really nothing. You're gonna, and it's certain, depends on what part of the country you live. It's a struggle, and I just understand that everyday struggle. I know how it is I know how it was before I became a nurse and after. I know how it was like. I mean, and it's a certain amount of money you're gonna make. That no matter what you can do, you can't. It's hard to save on $12 an hour.
Gee, so okay, let me kind of make an amendment to this last slide here. About this whole throwing in the towel thing. So, all right, I'm going to tell you a story of two students I had. Okay, one student came in, got all the way through the X-ray program. He barely passed, and come to find out, he failed his boards. Okay, you get 3 chances at taking those boards. He failed all 3 times. This guy, now luckily for him, he came to school using his dad's GI Bill. Okay. He was a good tech, but he didn't really understand the program. He should have dropped out a long time ago. I probably should have flunked him out. That was probably more so my fault. I was trying to really help this guy get through. Now, he now works at the Walmart distribution center. He's making, I think, like $20-something, like $20 an hour. He's very happy.
What part of the country is in?
Another student came in. She came into the program very smart, very bright, was academically gifted. I mean, this girl, I saw great potential in her, but she got halfway through the program. When we got the clinical, started going out to the field, she didn't like X-ray. She's like, no, I want to become a PTA, physical therapist assistant. Now she spent almost 10 months in my program, only had 8 more to go. She decided to bail out. That's what I mean by kind of throwing the towel. One who just decided this wasn't for her. It wasn't the college, but it was the job.
Do you guys see the Venn diagram here?
Yeah.
And I think this Venn diagram explains it perfectly.
This is it right here. So all you got to do. This is where I gotta salute Zero, and we even created a damn algorithm based on this. We literally, on a live stream we literally worked the math out on this. All right. So this is what you have to apply it. You have to apply what you're pursuing to this Venn diagram right here. There's what you love, what comes easy to you, and what pays you well. Okay. And what you're trying to do is hit that sweet spot right there. Because when you're there, that's where you don't have all of those issues that you're bringing up, Adrisa, when you're here.
What do you mean issues?
No, when you're talking
about... I think what Johnny Blaze said was an extreme. I don't know about radiology or technology, but in nursing you can take the boards as many times. You're telling me you're only allowed to take 3 times. I mean, I think that is an extreme in that sense.
You want to get 3 shots at hours.
I
Now,
mean, he should have applied himself. But
yes, he should have.
Let me ask you this: how much would he have made and I don't know what area he lives in, making $20 an hour, but how much would he have made in that same area as a radiology tech?
He would probably make about maybe $2-3 more.
But would he be doing what he loves?
Right.
Well, see, and I'm glad you said that. It's so I am doing other things while I mean. I have money to. You can make money in order to put into other things you want to do. You know, it's not like you can go into real estate. I mean, even Triz can attest to this. You know, the money you make, you can go into. I don't know what radiology techs make, but I know radiology techs. They can work around the clock. It's buku overtime, especially with COVID going on. So I mean, you can stack your money. You can. It's not, he doesn't have to be a radiology tech the rest of your life. Like, I'll put it this way. I'll put it this way. Let me say something crazy. If somebody that wanted to be a rapper, if he became a radiology tech or LPN or whatever, spent 1 or 2 years of his life doing this, I would have no problem them pursuing whatever they wanted to do because they can fund that lifestyle. That's all I look at.
But see, you're speaking on all of that, like based upon like a person saying, okay, I'm going to pursue this to fund this. Yeah. Okay. That's not, no, it doesn't actually.
Why not?
That's not because here's what I don't do. Right. If I want to fund my motorsport venture, I'm not going to say, okay, well, I'm going to jump into this potentially long-term career. I'm going to commit to doing all of this other stuff just to go and do this over here. That kind of doesn't.
Motorsports is resource intensive, though, right?
Well, no. Anything you're gonna do in terms of like some sort of entrepreneurial pursuit or something along those lines what you're mentioning, it's going to take resources, because what are you gonna do while you're doing that to sustain like day-to-day life? You're still okay. These are all resource expenditures here. So my line of thinking is that if I know that what I want to do has something of an entrepreneurial angle, what I'm not going to do is derail it by doing something else. Because guess what I did? Let's revert back to the diagram, because we've already done the math on this. Every scenario that you come up with, we could bump it up against this Venn diagram right here, and we can suss it out.
I think most people hate their jobs.
Most people
hate their jobs, and I just think as Black people in this country, we have a special place.
This is understood.
Go ahead.
Okay, this is understood. This is why this is called a Venn diagram on meaningful work. Let's not argue the assumptions. We already know these things. We already know it. So what we can do is use something like this to really iron out what the correct pathway is, instead of just going down this rabbit hole, slippery slope of, well, Black people and Black people and Black people, Black people, Black people. Well, why don't we just go ahead and start being smart, right? So let's look at this. Okay. If I really want to just exist in the sweet spot, right, then that means I need to be doing all 3 of these things simultaneously. Okay. If I'm not doing all 3 of these simultaneously, and let's just say I'm doing what pays me well, and it's what I love to do, right? But I'll potentially be miserable because it doesn't come easily to me. Okay. If I'm doing what comes easily to me, and I'm doing what I love, which is what a lot of people ultimately do, right? The starving artist, quote unquote, but it ain't paying them well. It ain't sustainable. If I'm doing what comes easily to me and it pays me well, right?
Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
You're borging. I can't hear you.
Yeah,
I can hear you. I can hear you clear.
Okay.
You're breaking up.
That might be.
That's you, Jesus. I can hear you.
Okay,
clear.
I can hear you.
Okay.
So me? Okay, my bad.
if you're doing what comes easily to you and you're doing what pays you well, but you don't exactly love it, you lack passion.
Can I ask you a question? Complex. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay, so okay. My name is Ajisa. I'm 20 years old. Lewis Hamilton is my idol.
Yeah.
I graduated high school 3 years ago. I want to get into motorsports. How do I do it? How do I buy my first car?
Esports. Got a gaming computer?
Okay. Okay.
You're asking the person who is doing live demonstrations of it, who not only does it in the real world but also does it in the sim world. Wait. You asked the question. So you're 20-year-old Ajisa, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what 20-year-old Ajisa needs to do. 20-year-old Ajisa needs to listen to 43-year-old Ulysses, who has a business in this. Let's start there. Let's listen to the dude who's cut his teeth in this. 20-year-old Ajisa. If you're asking me, you want to know the quickest way? Esports. Would you like for me to give you an example of what I'm talking about?
Go ahead.
Okay. Give me a second. Here, we're going to do this just to prove to you. All right. So let's do this here. All right. You see this guy right here? His name's Jan Martinborough. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to know how this dude became a factory Nismo motorsport driver for Nissan?
I think he won a competition. I know the guy. His father used to be a soccer player. Yeah.
Yeah.
He won a competition.
He won an esports competition. He won in Gran Turismo GT Academy. Out of 30,000 drivers, he kicked all their asses. This is on a game. And then they turned around and put him in a real race car. Would you like some other examples?
Well, hold on. Out of 30,000? So he was number one. He was the best.
No. That was the GT Academy competition. That was just that competition, that one alone. Would you like some more examples?
Well, yes, but my question
is, what
about 2 through 10? Those guys. What if he came in the guys that came in second place that didn't get signed?
It doesn't matter. Like I said, would you like more? Dude, you're arguing with me. Would you like more examples? Because you think he's the only dude to come out of the sim world to get into a real. That's what I mean, dude. You know what I mean? There's tons of them. And so if you're asking me, what's the easiest pathway? Esports. Why? Because if you already, do you know how much a gaming computer costs versus a race car? Yeah, I mean, any idea?
Eventually you'll have to buy a race car.
Well, did he buy his did he buy his Super GT Nismo race car? No, they actually signed him as a driver. They're paying him. He didn't buy anything. Wrong again.
But that's just one person. I'm talking about 2 through 10. What about those guys?
They've probably got picked up. But no, you okay? You want to know what probably happened with them? Here, I'll show you. Because, like, dude, I don't take that type of tone to life, man. And I have to tell you, it gets pretty grating when companies like McLaren have an esports team. So you want to know what 2 through 10 did? They probably got snatched up by dudes like McLaren. Would you have any other questions?
I mean, I see what you're saying.
Well, if you see what I'm saying, then just listen. Because I'm showing you. You asked, I'm showing you. Look. You want to know? Here you go. Welcome to McLaren Shadow Project, a virtual racing program that shadows our real-world equivalent. Now, Ajisa, why do you think their shadow program in the virtual sim racing world literally shadows the real world equivalent? Would you like for me to explain that to you?
I mean, I use racing.
No, would you like for me to explain it to you?
Go ahead.
Okay, so if you go and refer back to like the last 2 live streams that I've done on sim racing and breaking down the data and all that. See, the sim world emulates the real world to such an extent that I can literally take the data out of the sim car and then put it into like a Motec data logging software. And I would get the same telemetry data from my sim car that I would get in an actual McLaren car. So that's how close a sim racing car mirrors an actual racing car. So if you are very proficient in sim racing, guess who you get the eyes of? Guys like McLaren. And then what they'll do is they'll put you onto their virtual racing program, and then what they'll do is they'll call you up from there to put you in a real car.
So what about 10, 15 years ago when these opportunities weren't available?
Well, welcome to the
thing.
future. That's the thing. That's why I'm like, okay, you can keep bringing up past stuff all you want, but guess where we're at today? That's why I'm focused on the future, bro. Like, I'm like, you keep bringing this up, and I'm like, well, there's a pathway forward to this. So you're sitting there, you keep heaping upon me all these. But what if? I'm the one who's. I'm literally sitting in my sim rig right now. Like I can tell you, I can give you a price on it. Like I said, you want to price this out? You can build. Wait, hold on, dude. Wait, hold on. So you can build a sim racing rig to do all of this stuff here, right? For a scant $2,000 for a really proficient setup. Okay. Do you know how much an actual racing car costs? Do you know how much the game Assetto Corsa costs on Steam?
I don't know.
It's like $39, right? Where you get a whole bunch of race cars in it already. You know how much each one of those race cars cost in real life?
Probably expensive.
$500,000 minimum and up. Any more questions?
Look, I just used because that was something you were familiar with. I mean, I could have easily said a rap career. I could have easily said, I don't know.
We would then have to look at markets. Like, okay, see, esports is a viable career path and a viable market. That was evidenced by the fact that Johnny Blaze mentioned that the school that he works for has an esports program. So that means that even on a collegiate level, on an industry level, okay, companies like McLaren and all the other like high-end automotive manufacturers, Porsche and the rest of them, they all have esports programs as well. Okay. However, let's take the career arc of a rapper.
Mm-hmm.
What career pathway would you like for me to carve out for a rapper?
I'm just saying. Well, I was in music, so I understand.
I was in music too. Why do you think I'm not in it anymore?
The studio time, but people still do.
We ran a studio, dude. I ran a label. Why do you think we do it completely different now?
What I'm saying is these are cash intensive, resource intensive things. I'm just saying, look, you can most brothers can try their luck out there without it. It's just that you're almost naked in these streets without some type of something to fall back. It can be something to put you through on the weekends to where you can fund your dream. That's all I'm saying, man. I didn't mean to make this contentious or at all. I use esports or racing as
you used it as an example, and I completely debunked it. And I'm saying, it all goes in line with what it is that we've been talking about. It's like, okay, you have to actually do your due diligence and find the pathway towards what it is that you want to do. That's why I won't accept any excuses. If you're going to ask me about motorsport and you preface the question by saying, I'm 20-year-old Adjisa and I want to be a race car driver. How do I do that? And you're asking someone with the experience. I'm going to tell you this. What would you argue with me for?
Can I jump in real quick? Complex?
Go ahead, Trish. You got it. Go ahead, man. Yeah.
Okay, so just hear me out for a second. And if I'm wrong, Adjisa, you can step in and correct me. But what I think that we need to do is look at if we're able to establish percentiles and say, the top 50% percentile, the 60th percentile, 70th, 80th, 90th, and 100th percentile. And then at those different echelons, establish what one could expect to make annually. Now, if you take, for instance, Ejiza and I are in the healthcare field, or particularly nursing, right? A nurse in the 50th percentile, bottom, right? 50th percentile can still make 6 figures, easy, right? Somebody in the 90th percentile obviously can make 6 figures easily. But if we were to apply that to other things, say, for instance, within the realm of real estate, right? This is something that really there's a steep curve, right? As far as good real estate agents versus subpar real estate agents. Ditto can be said for perhaps even esports, right? If you look at the 50th percentile of esports, do they make a living wage versus the 90th percentile, maybe even a top 100 percentile, those that actually, transcend into live motorsports or even the virtual motorsports of a respected team like McLaren? Though we're talking about the top 95, we're talking about the 95th percentile that will probably make that, and higher. But those that fall below that threshold, they really can't expect to have enough capital to really sustain themselves. So I think what Jesus is saying is that from the perspective of safety, and maybe perhaps, but then I hear what you're saying is that, like, you don't want to go to school for 2, 3, 4 years for something that's just your backup plan. So I think that's where you got to find that happy medium. Like,
the happy medium, Triz, and I want to get your take on this. Aren't there people on YouTube who do sim racing? They run channels, and that's monetized, and that's what they do for a living and make money.
That's a really good point. Really good point.
Go ahead. You got to do. Go ahead.
No. Hey, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. That's a good point.
Well, this is my problem. It's kind of like, well, why are we thinking so one-dimensional about this?
Well, I'm gonna be honest, right? Like, the reason why I'm in healthcare is because it came easy to me. Period. Mm-hmm. Like I don't love my job. It's not like it's like a passion of mine, and I'm not a bleeding heart. To be perfectly honest, like, I'm able to do what I do because I really don't care. Like, my standard comes from, a certain pride that was instilled in me as a youth.
Well,
so,
you're a taskmaster, dude. It's like you'll just come in and get the job done.
Yeah, and if the patient died, like I had a patient die, everybody was crying. This guy died. I'm like, what the hell are they crying for? It wasn't even their patient. It was my patient. I came back the next day. I mean, he was alive when I left. When I came back in the morning, he was dead. And the nurses all, teary eyed, stuff like that. And they're looking at me like, yeah. So I'm like, because I don't love my job.
Damn it, Trish, you're a cold-hearted son of a.
That's kind of.
I mean, for me, I look at.
I'm feeling you, Trish. Don't buckle, Trish. I'm feeling you. Don't buckle, Trish.
No, I look at death differently because I understand that all living things must at some point die.
No, this is true.
So I just don't look at life and death the same way.
Hey, Trish.
Well, you're in that profession, so you know that it's a part of the environment.
Trish, let's rewind the clock 15 years or 20 years. You're still a nurse, whatever. You're working part time, but you want to be a rapper or you want to be a producer. How? No. I know. Let me just hear me out. How easy do you think it would be to go to buy your equipment, build your studio out, go to different, be able to go to different shows, road trip around the country, get your CDs printed, print out your CDs, be able to distribute them? Just how easy do you think it would be to finance just the beginning stages of your career?
Okay, but look at it from this perspective, and I think Complex can chime in on this, right? There's a lot of rappers out there that are actually, I would say, they're in the bottom 20th percentile, but because of their conviction, their drive, and their vision, they're able to be successful because they're able to leverage certain things, like what Complex said, like streaming. Okay, maybe you didn't make the McLaren team, but you stream, and so now you got an income based on you streaming your races. So like I'll give you an example. My cousin, right? So always, like you're young, you listen to rap, you're like, shit, I can rap, you know what I'm saying? So, you'll write some shit out, then you'll say it, by yourself, and you realize, okay, this is terrible. But my cousin could literally just like off the top of his head, like, and I was like really pushing him, like, yo, you could actually rap. And I'm not even like gassing just because he relates to me, like this nigga really is talented. But he's like, nah, fuck that. I'm getting a regular job. I'm not, And so for him, it wasn't that he didn't have that self-confidence. And I think that's where Complex is coming from, is like, you can't have that defeatist mindset. If there's something that you're really passionate about, you got to pursue it. Because there are a lot of people that's far less talented that actually are successful.
Well,
so so don't have a plan. No, I'm just saying, and I'm not. I mean, I will concede the argument because this is my personal belief, and I really don't want to. I'm not trying to put it on anybody. But so what you guys are telling me is, you got to go balls to the wall. Don't have. I think Denzel even said it. He said he didn't have a plan B. It was
no, we're not saying that.
If you know you're that good, if you know you're that good, don't have a plan B. But if you're kind of on the fence, like, be a stalker at Walmart. Something that doesn't require a whole lot of going to school. You don't want to waste time going to school if that's not your
2 years is not a waste of time. It really isn't. I don't think so.
Jesus. Okay.
Go ahead, Johnny Blaze.
I'm not saying have a plan B and a plan C, because when I left the military, before I left, I had multiple plans. I knew coming out the military, I was either going to work as an X-ray tech, I was going to be an instructor, or I was going to go into the computer system PACS of radiology. And right now, I'm actually an instructor. That's what I do. But what I am saying, you're saying 2 years of it may not be a lot of time, but it does cost money. So, and like Trish said, don't invest time and money into something if it's not going to pan out. And that's where we really have to look at these plans, logically here. If I'm going to go to school, what's my return on investment for this thing here? And I think that's what we really need to look at. What are we going to get out of this? It's like somebody who goes to school to get a business degree. Okay, what are you going to do with the business degree? Do you understand how to run a business? Do you have any real world experience? Because education is great, but education without experience, I'm
talking about the skilled, the trades. What do you call it? The applied sciences. Now, I'm not just talking about something like a business degree, esoteric, like a business degree. I'm talking about something. But I mean, look, I'm coming from the perspective because where I was, I see a lot of dudes that are there right now, and it kind of clouds your judgment. You kind of temper what your ambition, because you're like, man, there's no way I could afford that. There's no way I could do that. So you start thinking, your thinking changes. But hey, I mean, like I said, that's what that's like. I'm about being the most efficient and making it the like I said, getting there the easiest route to get there. You can still have a passion and stuff, but that grind is not for everybody, in the sense that grind, that's exactly what it is. It wears you down, and you just say F it. You might, you got so many things going on, and you just forget about it. You just like, you know what?
Well, this is the reason why we were saying, right? If that's what it is, okay, it has to be a passion. Because if it's a passion, then you don't care if it's a grind. Dude, motorsport is not easy to break into. Okay, so I had to be.
Your passion wears when you don't.
No, it
doesn't.
It actually, no. If it's something, dude, if it's something I am passionate about, okay, and now
you're 1%, man. Complex, you're in the top 5%, man.
I'm not in the top end. No.
Let me finish. Like Elsa's saying, and I agree with both of y'all. I think what Elsa's saying is the bottom 50% of the community, we need to be designing stuff for them. Complex, I think with your intelligence and passion, that puts you at the top 5%. I don't know how Blaze is. I see some of my students, like he said, I had a young lady with 4 kids. She's barely surviving, man. One of my students was homeless. So I'm trying to get her a 2-year degree so she can get stable, so she can live and figure out what she can do next. And I think that's what Elsa's saying. So I think y'all both saying the same. What's your name? I'm sorry.
Jason.
We watching Frozen or something?
No, I'm sorry, man.
No, it's
Jesus, I apologize.
No,
I think y'all saying the same thing. And so I agree with both of you, but like what he's saying is my bottom 50% of students, a couple of them was homeless, man. They can't live on passion. She got 4 kids. She's living on food stamps. She was living in a $25 hotel. I was concerned for her safety, so I'm trying to get her certification so she can make some money and get stable.
Look, you make somebody told me you make better decisions when you got money in your pocket. Like decisions it's a lot easier. Those broke decisions, or what did Cat Williams call it? Life decisions that you don't have to be making those type of decisions.
So the first decision that you would have to make is the decision to start saving money, right? If you wanted, wait, hold on, dude. See, this is what I mean. I hate these slippery slopes because all it takes is just critical thought to solve problems. But see, here's what we want to do. Right? We can come to a simple fucking conclusion. Pardon my French. But then you know what we want to do? We want to interject our cultural idiosyncrasies in, right? And say, well, but we can't commit to that solution because of, and then we're back on that goddamn slippery slope.
This is America.
Jesus, there you go. You just did it again. Well, this is America. No shit. I was born in it, bro. California, to be exact, particularly SoCal. What else you want to know?
How much money can you save on $12 an hour?
It's not, dude.
Okay.
Go ahead, Johnny. You got it. I got to step away for a quick second anyway. Go ahead.
We're assuming that this person has massive amounts of debt for a minute. So, if we use the $12,
I'm not assuming anybody has debt. I'm just talking about starting out. 20 years old.
Okay. So so $12 an hour? Are you living at home or not? That's a first question we need to figure out. Okay.
No, you're not. You got your own apartment. But let's say living at home. Yeah, you're living at home.
Okay. So basically, and as Professor Black Ops, alluded to, the necessities are going to come first. Okay, that means rent, the 4 walls, food, and all that other basic stuff. And that's when we kind of figure those things out. And you're going to build your plan kind of around that. One of the key things here, we got to be smart with the money, and I think and make smart decisions, because I look at money like this. Money is an amplifier of who you are. If you're bad with money being poor, you're going to be bad with money being rich. Athletes are a prime example of that.
Thank you, man.
Prime example. And I wanted to ask Professor Black Ops a question, and I'm hoping this is going to kind of lead back to where you're going. But hey, Black Ops, are most of your students, folks who are going to college, after many years?
It's weird. It's community college. I got like a third of mine is 20 trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
The top 10 is just people that need a degree to get a promotion. So those guys, I leave alone. I say, turn in your work, doing so all over the place.
But I'm trying to go somewhere with this, because I'm looking at like my student. A lot of these folks are ones who are trying to change their life. And I think this is their plan B. I don't get too many directly out of high school now.
Hey, Johnny, real quick. I got to go run a quick errand. Just go ahead and hold it down. Okay.
So I'm saying I'm seeing folks who are trying to, who are not coming directly out of high school. These are folks returning to work, trying to figure that whole life out because they were living on that $12 an hour type thing. And I get where you're going with that.
So they're not they're non-traditional students.
Correct. I get a lot of non-traditionals.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in X-ray, for instance, right? A lot of people are unaware of that career path. I mean, we know X-ray technology exists, but like the marketing of it, like you don't really see, like even like in series and stuff like that, TV series, movies, you don't see X-ray technologists. You see nurses, you see doctors. So, I mean, everybody thinks about that. Like a lot of stuff, physical therapy, CT scan, which is like an extension of a radiology technique.
That's the next level. Yep.
Yep. Because I'm I won't say date. I'm dealing with a girl. She does the CT scans. Mm-hmm. And people don't even really think about this stuff. PET scan.
Them cats make a lot of money too.
Yeah, PET scan. Mammogram, mammography technician. Like there's like a lot of stuff. Even like the ultrasound, like to do like the Dopplers of the hearts, echocardiogram, stuff like that. So, it's like a lot of stuff that people don't think about. So that's the reason why you get those non-traditional students, because somebody has to have actually like live life a little bit to even think about that. There's not something that you come out of high school thinking about.
Yeah, there was one girl that I worked with who did know about it, but I'm assuming that career counseling probably got involved with her high school to say, okay, if you're on this path of, you know, not going to a 4-year college, but more of an associate's route, here are the things that are available, certifications, things like that. And some states are better than others about, you know, really trying to lay out a path for people.
You know, most of my students who are in my program find out through word of mouth. You know, they know somebody who's done the job, or like a few of them, they've had a parent or a family member who's had cancer, and that's how they end up figuring out about X-ray.
I think one thing to keep in mind is that with X-ray, a lot of people don't realize that is actually labor intensive, especially if you're doing like the portable X-rays. Like, and I think that's what turns a lot of people off, because we got the people that do the X-rays for us is like, most of them are guys who do the portable X-rays. I don't really see the people down in the X-ray department, but the ones that come up to the floor is like all guys, and this one girl, she's big. She's like, you know, kind of stocky built.
Yeah.
And so she's able to, you know, toss the patients around and stuff like that, because especially like depending on the unit you're going to, like ICU, we're not going to help you slide that under the patient.
Oh, no. The nurses will leave you hanging.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Like, I mean, there's a couple times I'll help, like if we get like a big bariatric patient, then I know they're gonna need some help. But other than that, like I'm doing so much. I'm sorry, I'm out of breath because I'm working out, but I'll be doing so much stuff, man. Like I ain't got time to be helping them out. And so if you can't do that type of stuff, and then you're dealing with people sweaty, musty, you know, urine on them sometimes, and you know, all kind of stuff going on. So it's not a job for everybody.
No.
I don't know how. I was going to quickly add, I kind of late to this conversation, but one of the things that I wanted to bring up too is I don't know how much people are taking into account sort of skill assessment tests, as far as, you know, if you're someone who, like you said, Johnny Blaze, people are trying to figure it out. Taking an assessment or something like an interest inventory on, hey, these are your strengths, these are your weaknesses, these are the skills that you have that transfer really well into this career field. That's always, if you can do these things online, or, you know, if you're in school, you can reach out to a career counselor and they should point you in the direction of that stuff.
You know, I wonder why something like this, like that, isn't offered like at a high school level. I know they have like the ASVAB for like military, which is kind of similar, but you need to go to the recruiter's office for like to really get it interpreted. But you know, I think that's something like really, you know, and this is where it comes into like actually being involved. Like, you know, if you have some type of collectiveness, these are certain things that you can advocate for, because you're paying for public schools, whether you like it or not. Whether you're, you know, so you might as well, you know, use your collective voice and say, you know, this is something that we're paying for. Show up to the school board meetings and stuff like that, and kind of advocate for the things that you think will kind of benefit your children. But I also want to mention, you know, earlier we were talking about the career paths and stuff like that. You know, for me, I use my I had the military GI Bill, and you know, initially I went in through the LVN program in the military. They pay for everything. They pay for my boards. I end up having an EMT license and the LVN license when it was all said and done. Both of which I could use in the civilian sector. So the military is very underrated, and they still offer the LVN program in the military as well as the X-ray program in the military. So that's something to think about. And you get paid while you're in school.
I mean, you know,
you get paid while you're in the program.
I mean,
so that's
I mean, do they offer so much training?
Huh?
You're breaking up, MOT.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Hey, MOT.
Oh, I am?
Oh, no, I think you're good now.
Yeah, it's just that the military is so underrated on how much training you can get for free as your actual job, and transfer that into the actual civilian sector. I mean, it's really underrated. Like, let me give you an example. Like, my cousin became like, the Air Force taught him how to be a hacker. I'm talking about 6 months extensive training how to be a hacker, right? From a guy who does know nothing about computers to labor intensive how to do that. That guy at the end of his 4-year term was able to upscale that into like a $250,000 job in 4 years.
Mhm.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Now, I want to quickly ask you, and I don't know if you see this as much now. Why do you have some vets who seem to struggle with the transition into civilian and finding jobs? I know there's been a push lately amongst the private sector to hire more, but what do you think accounts for that gap? And sometimes,
Okay, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, people just don't know how to. It's not a skill that's taught on how to find a job, and most people don't want to pay for the actual recruiters and everything else on getting a job. Like most people don't know how to put themselves in front of the actual professionals, the headhunters who actually look for this stuff for a living. And there's another part of it. The other part of it is, let's say they found you a job. Now you have to be able to be mobile to move to the actual money, and most people don't want to do that either. So it's two-part thing.
yeah, I see that in general of people not wanting to move, regardless,
can I say something?
military or not. Go ahead.
Can I say something? I think, and if he doesn't mind me saying, I think MOT kind of reinforces my argument in the sense that he's into transportation, but he has a background in computer science programming, right? So let me ask you, MOT, had you started out when you were 20 years old and do you think you could have gotten to your business, not just being a truck driver, but your business? Would you have got it quicker just doing truck driving straight up doing that? Or did the money, the resources that you were able to procure as a software programmer, did that help you fund your business?
Yes and no, and I will fully explain myself.
Okay.
I went through IT as a tester, a coder, a hardware guy, up into project management to messing around with budgets and everything else before I went into trucking. So if I would have started at 20 years old, let's say I would have moved to Denver.
Mm-hmm.
There's really not that many places where you can start off at while doing local work. So if I would have went into trucking right away, I wouldn't have thought about using my GI Bill to go to school. So the going to school portion and me actually working in IT helped prepare me for the next opportunity that I ran into. Because I typically wasn't starting over. I was starting with an operations manager's aspect toward the actual field that I'm working in. It wasn't just being a worker. Anybody can drive a truck, but not everybody can be able to leverage the resources and go and talk to actual clients and all that kind of stuff. The project management and the IT portion helped me with that. It was an ongoing thing the entire time. Like there was no, you do these couple things and you pass go. No. I mean, because you can be a guy, because being a truck driver only requires a pulse and being 21 years old, or a pulse and being 18 years old in some places. I'm not down in the field. It's just that if you start off like that and you end up having a kid, that $1,000 a week is going to be a death trap for you, and you'll never be able to get out of that. So it's just that it's a lot of discipline and knowing exactly where you want to be at the end of the day. Because I wanted to own my own outfit, because I own my own IT outfit. And then I pretty much didn't like that either. And then I got to doing this. I'm like, wait a minute. If I apply all the same concepts here, I could be at a couple $1 million a year in another 4 or 5 years.
I just think brothers are better served having at least some type of certification or associates where they can always fall back. They can work the weekends, make decent money, and then figure out what they want to do. Like I said, decisions become a lot easier when you got some money in your pocket. You make better decisions.
Yeah, I was gonna say it gives you a cushion to fail and get back up and not have it be devastating.
Thank you.
I mean, and also can't be able to think about all these things if you're trying to rush, work 90 hours a week just to make the rent and your lifestyle. So you got to have that time equity so that way you can be able to think these things through. Because a lot of people are far too busy to where they work 12 hours a day. They can't even go meet with or even talk to the actual people who can actually propel them in a different light because they work too many hours.
But some of these skills, some of these trades, some of these 2-year degrees allow, even a 4-year degree. Like I said, the jump from 24 to 28, 24 to 29 is really not, I mean, it's not like you were in a stasis, you were in a state of animation to where you were just doing nothing. It's like No, it's you're gonna be spending that time doing something anyway. So that type of thing is like I really think uh it really helps you. It gives you just like he said a safety net. So it gives you room to fail.
So basically,
Yeah, but
Jesus,
here,
you're saying that men don't have a wall, so they can invest that time.
correct.
Yeah,
And
that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
So you can be
yeah,
high
but here's the
value.
other thing.
But
You
this
can be
comes
high
Yeah,
back
but
to
here's
one thing. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say this. This comes back to one thing. We got to make smart decisions early on. And I think that's the ultimate thing that we're really talking about here is coming out of high school in our 20s. Okay, we need to basically don't get into debt. Don't start having a buttload. We got to make smart decisions early on.
I mean,
The big thing
I
is
don't think
kids.
most brothers get into debt. I mean, they don't even give us credit like that. I mean, you
The
get one or two credit cards. How much debt do most brothers get into?
I mean, you can get
I've
into debt.
seen people get quite a bit of
oh
debt.
man, look,
Yeah,
As a 21-year-old?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
man, look.
some people got debt
Credit card debt.
coming out of high school because their parents don't run up their credit.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Handicapped in
different.
the military are in debt. Trust me.
Yes.
The
Oh
big
my
thing I
goodness,
think,
like
Johnny Blaze, is the kids. Even if you have
Yeah,
the
it's
debt,
the kids.
if you have the debt, you can pay that off. Even if you take a year or two and you screw around, as long as you don't have any kids and you don't get any criminal charges, you can always say, okay, I've been screwing around for the past 2 years. I'm 20 years old. I need to enroll myself in community college and move in a positive direction.
like okay, so I want to say this because I think Jesus getting at that whole backup plan and you know, as I said, you know, when I came out of the military, I had my EMT license and my nursing license. And I was able to jump right into, you know, working in the civilian sector, making decent money, have my own apartment, have my own cars. Like I didn't ask my parents. I've never asked my parents for anything since I was 17, you know, and that was because of the military allowed me to do that. And one of the things that I did was, you know, I started working, I was making money. And so then I wanted to go back to school. So I used the GI Bill and I enrolled in this Kaplan program, whatever, right? And this was like the inception of like online schooling. This was like it was like all new at this time. This was like in the early 2000s. And so I had enrolled and I paid with the GI Bill and they paid them up front. And I didn't even use it. I was so busy chasing women, you know, and going on trips and you know, doing all this wild stuff that I never even used it. And it cost like $20,000. It was like the LVN to RN program. And you know, it almost revoked my GI Bill after that because I never used it. But then after that, I ended up going back to school later on, like, you know, a couple years later, and I used my GI Bill again, and I was able to go to school. But because I didn't pay it out of my pocket, it wasn't that real loss. So at the end of the day, I don't have student loan debt. So I went and got my RN as an associate in applied science, and then when I came to Seattle, my job paid me to get my BSN. And they sent me to a private university. And the tab on that was $50,000 $50,000 for 2 years.
Did you owe them? Did you owe them any money?
I don't owe them any money or any time.
Any time, like that's what I meant. Any work time.
I don't owe them any work time or any money.
Now,
But in all fairness, that was when I went to this school. But now I think starting like last year, they make you give back 2 years. But when I went, I didn't even have to give back any time. So I could have just left my job right after I got my degree. No problem.
Yeah, my job's like that is a year. They'll pay for you owe them a year's worth of whatever they paid in the last year's tuition.
I think everybody on this panel will agree with me that if black males, 20% of us made at least 50,000, 40 to 50,000 a year, the landscape in this country would change. I'm talking about the entire country because we would not be on the bottom.
Well, in all fairness, Jesus, I think, you know, I've actually read specific studies on income and how it changes the lifestyle. The actual threshold is 70,000.
Okay,
well, I was going to say we're already at the top. I believe top 20% of black men are over 50,000.
Yeah, $50,000, but $50,000, like, you know, your lifestyle doesn't really change significantly until you make around $70,000 because at that point you have capital to invest.
Yep.
So your actual perspective changes, and you begin to ponder concepts such as trajectory. And so, you know, your actual you look forward, 5-10 years in advance, as opposed to looking, the next couple months and stuff like that, and paying bills by the month. And then the next echelon in between 70 and 130, 170,000 and 130,000, the lifestyle really isn't that much different for those price ranges. Once you get above, I think it's like 130,000 to, I believe it's like 250,000. That's a different category. And then 250,000 to like $400,000, they live a different lifestyle. Then above $400,000, that's a whole different category of living. But like, you'll find that there's certain ranges between incomes where people live relatively the same lifestyle. Now, there's individual choices as far as debt accumulation, but the lifestyle itself really doesn't change. So we really should be shooting for, as a collective, as Black men, we should be shooting for 70,000 and above. 50,000.
So we should be doing for. Nice. We should be going for the Henry, and then after that will be the high value, right?
Well, I mean, like, I don't recommend men being high value just to make themselves more appealing to women. That's
no, that was a joke. I don't want to sidetrack.
Yeah, I know it's a joke, but I want to make sure people we make that abundantly clear. The actual high value. I mean, high value. There's other attributes beyond income, but even just a high earner. The purpose of being high earner is so that way you can control your outcomes and position your lineage to at some point control their outcomes. So my vision is, at some point, I want my lineage to be making decisions on the behalf of the general populace, as opposed to us living in a reality created by somebody and pondered by somebody 400 or 500 years ago. We're living in someone else's reality. And so we need to be actually accumulating income and wealth and looking at different avenues to do that, whether it be through school or whether it be through entrepreneurship or a combination of both. We need to be able to control our outcomes and not live in someone else's reality.
Yep.
That's it. I was going to say something, Triz, when you left the military, you already had your EMT certification and your LVN license, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and see, and I'm going to kind of just use the military for a second. There are a lot of folks, veterans who leave the military, who don't have any of their certifications. They can do the job, but they don't have the things that will allow them to transition to the civilian market. And that's where a lot of veterans go wrong.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of getting at earlier with my comment, because like I said, I've seen that gap of guys coming out and they just, for whatever reason, they can't. They're used to the structure of the military, and the civilian world is different, and they struggle with that. Well, relevant skills.
One thing that I do remember being in the military is that the military, it attracts a certain type of person, right? Now, there are other people that come in for various other reasons, but there's a core group in the military that are attracted there because they don't have any identity prior to being in the military. And so they go to the military because, either the recruiter talked them into it, or they looked at the actual the gravitas of people in the military that they've seen in military uniforms, and they thought that was appealing, how women flock towards them, not understanding the reason why women flock towards them. But other reasons, like, I had an identity prior to the military. Like, I grew up with structure. I wasn't allowed to sleep in on the weekends. I never slept in until I was an adult. I had to be up at 7 o'clock, even on Saturdays. That was my household. So I had to be up, I had to be dressed, I had to be out of that bed had to be made up. So I was already prepared. I already had an identity. I had discipline. I had structure. Now, once I got on my own, I started, chasing women and stuff like that. But at least I had a foundation of structure, and I had an identity. My father told me who I was. I had my father's name, and I had a certain pride instilled in me and work ethic instilled in me that I didn't need the military for. But a lot of these people, they don't have it. Like it was people that I knew that was in basic training. That was in basic training with, that came from nothing. Like, they came from some small a town of 250 people in Louisiana, some small town in Oklahoma, and they had one pair of shoes from 9th through 12th grade. Like I knew people like that I was in the military with. And they didn't have an identity. They really didn't have any contact with the outside world outside their little town. They never left their town. They had no identity. And so once the military is over, some people get injured and they get chaptered out the military. Some people have disciplinary issues. They get out the military. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what do they got? They have nothing. They don't. The military was them, and you know who they are because when they get like you have your you have your military duties, and then once your military duties are done, you're free to kind of do your own thing. But you see them, they're still wearing their uniform. It's 10 o'clock at night. They still got the uniform on. You know, they come back. They go on their vacation for 3 weeks, and they still getting military haircuts. They still shaving it and they're wearing their Class A's. You know, when they're home on the town, they didn't have any identity prior to the military. So of course, once they get out the military, they're going to be lost, and then you have a lot of people with mental issues too. Like some people, you know, like especially they get deployed. Some people, you know, mentally they can't handle being deployed, being in a situation where they have to, perhaps even, fire upon civilians. You know, some people put in positions like that, depending on what you do or transportation. You know, you may witness some atrocities and stuff like that. Some people mentally can't handle that. So when they get back to the civilian side, they're lost. And that's because that core group of people that were initially attracted to the military, they already had some type of issue.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's sad. We had a senior in CO. This back when I was, I want to say, I think I was an E5. This guy was an E8, and he was up for retirement. And man, this guy was late for his own retirement ceremony. He was literally waiting on the promotion board to come out, and he didn't make it. Now, this guy had been in the military for 28 years, and he's like, "What is he?" He was saying, literally, "What am I going to do now?"
It's like he's been institutionalized.
Exactly. No plan. Now, here's another thing. And you also got to look at sometimes the branches themselves. Each of the branches have a unique function. And, you know, there was a comment in the chat. It was asking about the military schools being accredited and stuff like that. Now, I can't speak for the Army and the Navy. I can only speak for the Air Force. We have what's known as the community college, and our community college is accredited. So all of our technical training ties back to a real degree. So, but you still have to do like your general core classes, and if you get those, you'll actually you'll at least having a degree from the military. I have 2 of them.
When I went to the military, I went to the actual nursing program. Right when I got out, and I applied to college, my anatomy and physiology transferred. My basic training was my physical training, or PE, whatever credit. Yeah. So like I had a ton of credits, and my only issue that I had is that I ended up getting deployed, and I came back and my credits were expired. Because in the nursing program you have to have anatomy and physiology and like certain things. In pharmacology, I have pharmacology too. A&P and pharmacology has to be within 5 years. Right. Or you have to retake the course. But if I had took it right when I got out or within 5 years, I would have been golden. That's the only reason why I took those classes again. But I had actually credit for them.
Me, when I became a senior in CO, I had, I'm running a flight of like 60 people. And I will tell you, my biggest gripe all the time was trying to get my folks to actually go to school and get their certifications. That was probably one of the biggest complaints and headaches I had when it came to the military. Because most of them a lot of folks in the military, I hate to say it, they will truck along just kind of coasting.
Yeah, like you're talking about the career specialist, E4.
Some of my E5s and E6, because like once you make E5, E6, they know, okay, all I got to do is keep my nose clean and I can hit retirement. I knew
actually 2 guys. When I went to the LVN program, I was like the youngest person in there because I went straight through out of high school. And so when I got there, it was 2 guys. One was like, I think he was probably like 14 years in, and one guy was like 20 years in, both of them E4s. And they had switched MOSs like, 4 or 5 times each. And so they were just basically just cruising, you know what I mean? They was racking up stuff, but they wasn't really using any of the stuff that they got. No, they could have taken that, because think about this, right? If you go to school as an LVN, get your LVN, right? Yeah. A couple years, there was a time, I don't know what it is now, but like when I was in, you could be an officer with an associate's as long as it was in nursing. Like you couldn't do that with any other degree. Only nursing. If you had an associate's in nursing, you can go to officer school. Okay. And so my thing was, a lot of these guys, like you know, you could like. As a matter of fact, I knew one guy that I was deployed with. He went to LVN school, then he went to in military, then he went to RN school at a community college. And it was funny, everybody used to make fun of him, say he was a community college nurse, you know, just in jest. But he ended up being an officer with an associate's degree. I know, I was in his unit, and he had an associate's degree from a community college, and that was a 2 years, that was a little 2-year commitment past his you know, his training that he got while he was in the military. 2 years, you could be an officer. But you got these cats that will be a E4 for 20 years.
Not in the Air Force, man. E4, you get 10 max. After that, you out.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. So, yeah, Army, you could be an E4 your whole career.
Yeah. No.
What's up, Dr. Phoenix?
What's going on, brothers?
What's up?
How you doing?
Long time no see, Trez.
My favorite elitist.
What's going on? So yeah, well, I guess my quick take on it. I mean, you guys pretty much covered some of the things that I was talking about yesterday, and in general, I guess my thoughts on the idea of folks not going to college. I'm okay with trades and all that stuff, but the problem is, and someone was just mentioning it earlier, Trez and Johnny Blaze were talking about it earlier, people get comfortable when they're thinking that they're making a decent income that's, I guess, scalable to their cost of living. And essentially, if you're making $20, for example, right now I'm in Illinois, I'm in the Chicago area, but $20 an hour, you wouldn't make it in Chicago on that. You just wouldn't. And the problem is a lot of folks most people, black folks in general, tend to get comfortable where they're at. And they are thinking that $20 is okay, when in reality, you really don't have much room to work with in terms of your income. And so Super Trez is correct what he said earlier, where that threshold that black men should be shooting for is $70,000 plus, because that's the point at which you start to make enough money where you start to have disposable income to make investments and do what you will with it. But again, I think, you know, I would caution that, you know, for the most part, you know, for black men, the goal is to be able to move into careers that provide you a high level income, but that is also stable. And so, yeah, I kind of just leave it at that for now.
I would also add to what you're saying. I think careers where you, if need be, if for whatever reason, whether it be family or better opportunity, making sure you're picking something where if you want to move to another state, you can do that and, you know, be compensated and have the same standard of living in that other state, as well as in general. I think when you start looking at what is lacking amongst black men as far as the professions, there's a need for us in pretty much every college educated field that you can make good money in. Engineering. You were talking about physician's assistants, physical therapists, CPAs, lawyers, doctors. I mean, we have needs in all those spaces. So we need to make sure those things are met. Otherwise, collectively, the standard of living is not going to be where it needs to be for black men in America.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, you guys? I'm back.
What's going on,
Dr. Phoenix, what's up, dude?
What's going on, brother?
Not
Yeah,
much.
no, I agree with that, Renaissance man, and also to a point that Super Trez and Johnny Blaze were speaking to about military service. Yeah, so I was a medic in the Army and all that, and you know, by the time I got out, I was already had an EMT license and stuff like that, but I did not go to work in the healthcare field after that. I actually I became a military consultant, and so I used to do some work with some pretty big name companies, and this like 2010s or so. And so I did that for about 2 or 3 years, and that's ultimately what took me to different ventures across the world or whatever. And so I did that, and then I went back to school and stuff like that. And so, you know, my personal take is that for the most part, for black men that go into college, the best thing you can do is do some of those general education courses while you're in. save yourself the time, the money. Schools, there's a lot of, the military contracts with reputable 4-year institutions that are all accredited, and you can do your general education courses, and those courses will transfer to whatever school you go to. And so it just makes your life a lot easier. But when I went to 4-year universities, I had already had my a number of college credits from going to community college when I actually did go back to Chicago for about a year and a half to do some schooling. So I did all my general ed at a community college, and then I ultimately went on to other 4-year institutions.
One thing I did notice when I was in, like you talk about getting your general education while you're in the military, and I had the opportunity to do that. I'm out, wilding out, but from this is anecdotal, obviously, but there's a couple of African guys that was in with me. They wasn't going out after work and on the weekends. They was in there going to school, and I think like a lot of it could be cultural, and that we start making some money, and we like, oh, we good now, because in the military, particularly, like your room and board is paid for. So even if like I knew cats would like, this was like not like a E1, E3, but like it was some E5s and stuff like that. I knew a cat that had a Mustang Cobra convertible, and he was paying like I don't know how much money a month. There's another guy, he had a used Dodge Viper. It was used, but I know it's still a lot of money. And they was basically spending all their disposable income on that car because their room and board was automatically covered being in the military. So like, your mindset, sometimes, being in that situation, if you don't have that foundation for delayed gratification, the military can be trouble for you because you spend a lot of time spinning your wheels. But I will say this, I'm past the mic. When you start looking at, if you want to go the school route, that Venn diagram complex, that is something, that tool, I think you should post that on the community tab. Because that actual Venn diagram is so true. You really have to look at that balance. And then you also want to look at, particularly in that balance, you want to look at what is your return on your investment. For every year that I spend in school, what gives me the most, if you're going to go to school, what gives me the most bang for the buck, right? And I think the best bang for your buck, honestly, is trucking. Like when you look at the amount of time you spend training for trucking versus like how much money you can make coming out of the gate, I think trucking hands down is probably the best bang for your buck. And then also nursing from an associate degree level. If you're working as a nurse from an associate degree level and you get in the right department, you get in med surge, you get in ICU, or you get in the ER. Unlimited
Dr. Phoenix
overtime.
doesn't like that. Dr. Phoenix don't
Unlimited
like that.
overtime. No, well, I'm
Dr.
just saying,
Phoenix
like,
is BSN only.
well, I mean, but I'm talking about bang for your buck. Bang for your buck, right? 2 years of school, unlimited overtime, you can make all the money in the world that you need.
That's what I said, man. That's all I said. I mean, even to get, like you mentioned, like, look, man, even if you want to spend your early years chasing hoes, and I don't advocate anybody doing it. Definitely don't go knock somebody up. But it's easier to chase hoes on a $60, $70 a year salary than, I don't know, a warehouse worker. It's just, look, man, I'm just saying, get something to fall back on. That's all I'm saying.
The other thing I would add.
I would agree with
go
that.
ahead.
Yeah, no, I would agree with what Jesus just said. You do need something to fall back on. And I would just only caution now, associate degrees in nursing, they're going to be there. I don't see nursing really having the real fortitude to actually come out and just mandate the BSN being the entry to practice, and just simply because you will put a lot of white women out of work.
Really?
But yeah, most of your community college professors are white women.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least in the nursing field. At least in the nursing field.
I could definitely see that. I thought you also were saying that a lot of the women who get that associate's degree are white women.
Oh, that's
That's
true.
Well,
that's
That's
a
true
lot
too.
of women. A lot of women.
They are, but black
A lot of
people
white women.
tend-
A lot of hood rats. But I digress.
black women tend the associates tends to be the entry most black people, specifically black women, get into nursing at is at the associate level. And what I would caution against is that if you go to these major urban areas like Chicago, or let's say you're in Madison or something like that, Madison, Wisconsin, you'll never get hired as an associate. You'll be hard pressed to find a degree as an associate in Milwaukee.
Nursing
I would
home.
just, I mean, yes, you can do a nursing home, but you don't
And
really.
in a nursing home, you could be an ADON or a DON with the associate. So I mean, and then you're talking about like think about this, right? You're a nursing home, right? You get a fresh ADON, fresh new graduate. Because that was what I did, right? So when I got my associates, right? As soon as I got my associates, I became the weekend supervisor. Like the day I got my degree, weekend supervisor. They immediately put me as weekend supervisor, and then I eventually became night supervisor for like a really short period of time. So weekend supervisor, night supervisor. That was like maybe about 3 months. After that, they moved me right into the ADON position, and I instantly went to 6 figures, and I was working 5 days a week, and I was taking 2-hour lunches every day. I was coming in at like 9, leaving sometimes leaving at 4, sometimes I leave a little bit later at 6. But I mean, it was really, really kicked back.
No, I
and
agree.
It was 6 figures as an associate.
You made 6 figures as an ADON?
6 figures as an ADON.
Yes. There's no way that's happening.
Oh wait, so you were a high value man?
I know,
I made
right?
6 figures as an ADON in Houston, Texas.
Oh, okay.
Did you do it for at least 5 years though?
No,
how big was your LinkedIn?
Listen, I got my degree, right? I was between weekend supervisor and evening supervisor. That was like 3 months. Then they immediately put me as the ADON. The minute I became ADON, they were trying to negotiate my salary, and I said I want $100,000. They said, okay, $100,000 right there on the spot.
Hey, Trez, quick question. I know what an ADON is, but I think some of the folks here may not know.
Associate Director of Nursing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Assistant Director of Nursing, and
but that's not normal though, is it? No, most AD1s do not make 6 figures.
In a nursing home, in a nursing home environment, yes, that is quite normal. You can be a director of nursing with just a BSN in a nursing home environment.
No, you could be a direct. There was now this is kind of getting like outdated now. But when I was an associate, when I was an ADON, and we had like an actual like a meeting for all like the ADONs and DONs, we had like this meeting with corporate, whatever, right? And it was 2 LVN director of nursings. Now they had been in the field for like 30 years already, but they were LVNs and directors of nursing in a nursing home. So I mean, the possibilities, like people often overlook nursing home and then home health as well. People overlook those fields, but there's avenues out there for you where you can make a lot of money, and depending on where you're working, because if you're nursing home, if you walk into a quote a SHIT show, you're gonna be working your behind off.
Mm-hmm.
But if you walk into a situation where they got all the systems in place and everything is running smoothly, you just come in as the ADON to kind of work alongside the DON, and sometimes you have to fill in for the DON when they're on vacation and stuff like that. Then it's easy money, and then as an associate's degree in nursing, once you get an ADON, a couple a year or so in ADON, they'll be ready to, because they was ready after a year. They wanted to move me to another facility as a DON. Now I eventually went back to the acute care. I came back to the hospital, but I could have been a DON of my own facility as an associate's degree in nursing.
And I do agree with that. Nursing homes tend to have a lower bar of entry for nurses as that. But typically, if you're looking at going into a hospital setting, they want to have that magnet status, which means they want those BSNs. And typically, for me, when I did my undergrad in nursing, and I agree with Super Trez, BSNs are really expensive. Depending on what school you go to, you can easily be out of 90 grand, easy. And for
very
me,
competitive, like you said too.
yeah, no, it is. It's a highly competitive field. Again, this is one of the common fields where white women go into, where they make lots of money, easily make six figures. That Super Triz was right what he was saying earlier, where it's pretty easy to make six figures as a nurse, especially if you're like a year or two out after graduation or something like that. Pretty damn easy.
Oh yeah, pick up a night shift where they'll pay you more, and then pick up, if you're working 3 12-hour shifts, pick up a fourth one and you're set.
Well, typically most new nurses do tend to start out at nights, like I did. For me, when I was an undergrad, I spent about 8 months doing an externship in the ICU. So by the time I graduated, I already had a job, but more importantly, I I had offers from a bunch of other places because I practically could have went anywhere I wanted to in the country at the time. And so that's kind of one of those things where I do really try to stress, if you're gonna do nursing or something like that, you really need to push to get these externships, and specifically in like critical care, because those are your high fidelity, your high skilled areas. And that's kind of where I'm not really big on the nursing home thing, because typically nurses go in nursing homes, they kind of lose a lot of those skills that they learn and that they have, because it's pretty much just pads and meds.
I would suggest doing they're called LTACs, long-term acute care hospitals. So they're like smaller hospitals where you go once you get out of the hospital, the main hospital. So that's where you can cut your teeth on getting that med surg, acute care, even ICU experience. So that's how I was able to get my foot in the door. Normally I would never be able to get into a hospital, but by doing that, I was able to get into the hospital environment. But that's all I want to say.
Now, you all support travel nursing as well?
I was a
do,
travel
but
nurse.
I think
Travel X-ray techs make good money.
I personally never been a travel nurse, but I know plenty of folks that are. And travel nursing, my honest opinion is travel nursing is a young person's game, and then you better not have no kids.
Men can really
This
make a killing travel nursing.
This is where black men can clean up at travel nursing. Because
also respiratory therapy, because you can do travel respiratory therapy too. I got several travel respiratory therapy, because some people don't want to do nursing. So I know some people, as soon as they hear nursing, they hear nursing, their anal sphincter tightens. So let's throw in that caveat. You can do respiratory therapy as well, travel respiratory therapy. And I think they do travel CT
speech
scan.
language pathology. You can do travel speech language pathology.
Speech language pathology. Now caveat speech language pathology. That's a master's program, and you make less than nursing. Now it's cleaner. You're not dealing with feces and all other stuff. But I mean, I don't think the bang for the buck is there for SLP. SLP doesn't make as much money.
Speech audiology is really not. Even physical therapy. I look at physical therapists.
I agree. I think for the entry level for SLPs and even for PTs and OTs, I don't think the bang for the buck is really there, especially given that for PTs, OTs, your many programs are really they're moving to doctorate programs, and so those are pretty difficult to get into.
They're just personal trainers to me. I mean, I know they do more, but the stuff I've been seeing them doing.
I would say this: nursing in general is a very broad field, and it's a field that can lead you down to a number of other different fields. You can move into tech as nursing. You can move into data science as nursing. In fact, if you consider doing something like a PhD program in nursing, that's kind of more the area you tend to move into anyway. It's sort of more of the data science area, and you're just kind of taking that clinical knowledge and experience you have, and you're applying it to data science and stuff like that. And so, but in general, I think nursing is probably bang for buck, probably one of the best career fields you can get into. And it's consistently, if you look at BLS, for example, it's consistently in the top 5 fastest growing occupations out there in the country, right? So.
Yeah, but on the technology side and healthcare, I do a ton of HIPAA work, and that pays well too. Getting the paperwork and making sure the computer systems got to be at a certain level. So this
Yeah, no,
continues.
and that's good because you get a lot of nurses, for example, who become like they go get because and I'm sure Super Triz can probably speak to this. If you're like Epic certified, for example, when I was doing my externship, they actually sent me for like 5 days to get certified using Epic because this Epic is the largest, considered the gold standard for medical record for EMR for medical records. And so yeah, I had to go for a 5-day training session, and that cost a lot of money. And so again, that was just part of what I did in my externship. But to come out of undergrad already being able to use Epic was a big plus for someone like me. And so again, being able to being able to, when you're in these programs and you're in these training programs, for example, being able to leverage that is kind of really key to helping you really, especially coming straight out the gate and being able to make those high 5-figure incomes.
Yeah, like I said,
And also, if you also want to kind of amalgamate nursing and computers, some people are like really into computers. Take it even a step beyond being HIPAA certified. There's also nursing informatics. They have actually obviously data informatics for those that are just strictly computer based, but there's a hybrid nursing informatics, and if you have a background in nursing, and I believe you have to have a ICU background, you can actually enter into a nursing informatics program in which you actually are more behind the scenes with the Epic, and you're pulling data from Epic and compiling that data and doing reports and stuff like that and tracking trends from an epidemic and pandemic standpoint. So that's something to think about as well.
Yeah,
Hey,
no, and that's really at the cusp of like really epidemiology and stuff like that. And that kind of goes to what I was saying, I believe it was yesterday, when I was talking about, being in the ICU, for example, patients are not just monitored on site, they are monitored off site. So you have off site monitoring and stuff like that happens because data is being transmitted through every few minutes. It all depends on really the acuity level of the patient, how often that data is being transmitted. But the point is that you're getting consistent streams of data 24/7 in an ICU. And so someone has to be able to take that data, tabulate it, and kind of start to look at things where you can start to look at maybe people who have septicemia, for example, where they start to really kind of decomp, or where someone starts to enter into septicemia and stuff like that. So
hey, I just wanted to welcome Jay and Engineering Cannabis to the panel.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
What's going on,
Engineering Cannabis?
I don't know if Jay is okay. He's muted. Wait. Oh, there you go. Hey, what's going on, Jay? How you doing, man?
Pretty good.
Cool.
How are you guys?
Man. We're good. Carry on.
Yeah, I wanted to quickly add to kind of going back to earlier what we were saying in the discussion about just picking careers and bang for buck. One thing that popped in my head that I think people should also consider when you start considering higher education versus other fields is the length you can do that and the physical toll on the body. Not to knock any trades or anything like that, but those are physically demanding areas where, if you're not in a union type of role, you could be looking at, basically being out of a job because someone's younger, more fitter, and going to be able to recover faster and do the work at a faster pace once you begin to age, versus if you're in something that's more knowledge based, your experience can be more valued. Not saying that you may not run into some age discrimination, but your ability to work and be able to work at that higher income when you're making money in your your 40s and 50s will be longer in a field like that.
And that's also region dependent. So like depending on the state that you're in, I can speak for healthcare. Like you start going east, southeast, Texas, in particular Florida. I've heard some horror stories about staff to patient ratios in Florida that are actually unsafe. but because those states are not unionized, that's kind of what you deal with out there. In a situation like that, you have a rather short career because, believe it or not, in particular in nursing, I think what's the average career? I think it was 7 years last time I checked. I don't know if you got any newer data, Dr. Phoenix, but last time I checked, it was like 7 years. And I know nurses personally, like over the years, they went through all that schooling to get a nursing degree and nursing license, have to sit for the boards, all that nonsense, and they end up being flight attendants. They work a couple years and I can't do this, and then they end up being a flight attendant or
If you
something
look
else.
at a nurse, if you look at a bedside nurse that's been a nurse for 20 years, the body's broken down. I mean, it's not something, like I said, none of this stuff to me is long term or doing forever. It's really just to see the horizon, see what's out there, see the forest from the trees, and then move on. Because that's a hard toll on your body.
Because I
Well,
was going to say, if it's a
But
bedside nurse, I figure you want to work into nurse manager,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
nursing
well,
director, CNO, possibly if
well.
possible.
Typically, for those positions, you usually have to have a master's degree. Typically, um, but in general, yeah, my personal opinion on, I could never be a bedside nurse no more than 5 years. Personally, me. That's just me. Um, and I think that's because, yeah, nursing does takes its toll on your body. I have yet to meet, nurses who've been floor nurses for, 10, 20 plus years that have not had at least a couple of injuries, do not have like knee issues or back issues or something like that. And specifically, for me, for example, um, I, it came down to really a few choices: med school, or I did briefly consider the CRNA route, but that wasn't really for me. And so ultimately, I just chose the med school stuff. But yeah, for the most part, I just think that, again, you can't go into these professions without having a long-term plan.
Yeah,
And I think
and
that's the key. That's the key here. Whether you go into a trade job, you go into a trade career, you go into a career that requires a bachelor's degree or higher. I don't think it's you need to have a plan for what you want to do with that, because you eventually are going to make the money. And once you start to make that money, you need to know exactly where do you want to go from that point.
Yeah,
and
and
follow.
I wasn't specifically just saying, nursing or anything like that. I was more talking to when you start because like you said, Dr. Phoenix, nursing, you can go in a lot of different directions still. I was more speaking just in general to if you start looking at something more like when people say, oh, they don't want to do college because of the debt, they'd much rather get a really good warehouse job or something like that, or try to get into, a trade. Just be aware of those limitations.
You know what? That actually brings something to mind. Have anyone ever seen any of these CNBC stories or like little mini documentaries on like working in an Amazon warehouse? Anyone's ever seen that? Anyone
Yeah.
ever seen any of those?
Yep. So
I've
Yeah,
seen
right,
that.
it's
I
on,
The
used
it's
to, I
ones
on
where
used to
they're
work
YouTube
in a
right
talking
now.
about
warehouse.
yeah.
the
So
ones
I
right
where
used to
now,
they're
work in the warehouse.
one of my students, I have a new student right now who actually works part-time in a Walmart warehouse. So right now, she's like 30 years old, but she already said the money's good, but it's breaking her body down. That's why she wants to be an X-ray tech.
But those documentaries are already on YouTube. If you search Amazon safety hazards or Amazon working conditions, you'll find the pay for Amazon is great, but the working conditions around Amazon is terrible.
I
I-
worked
I'm
in a
so, I'm
Home
so- I'm
Depot
sorry, Doctor.
warehouse.
I'm sorry, Johnny Blaze. What kind of good money does Walmart warehouse pay? Like, what do they mean by good money?
She's what I think she's making like
Walmart above minimum wage.
they
above,
pay.
yeah, she's making like 20, 22. I think $22 an hour, somewhere right around there.
But
What region of the
it's the
country are you in?
quota. It's
I'm in
the
the Virginia area.
quota. It's the quota that Johnny Blaze is referring to. It's what they have as human benchmarks, right?
Productivity.
Right, because here's what they're doing is as soon as they keep raising them and raising them and raising them to the point where humans can't maintain the benchmarks because of the logistics demand, deploy the robots.
I think that's
But the
really the
robots
point
are
here, Complex. And I think that's kind of what Ajiza was kind of getting at earlier, and even sort of really my point is that that's fine and all, but at the end of the day, those are also jobs that have a very high probability of automation in the near
Yep.
future.
It's
And not
already
only
happening.
that,
And so I again, I think this comes back to, I know black folks love to say, well, college ain't for everybody, but I don't think most black folks just say that because they're just afraid to step in the damn college classroom, because they know
well,
that the moment you step in there, this is a level of competition most black folks have never been accustomed to or ever had to deal with in their life.
exactly, man.
well, also you got to think about a lot of these jobs are hazardous, right? I worked in a Home Depot warehouse, and this was like in maybe early 2000, somewhere around there. Maybe, I think it's like around 2000. I worked in a Home Depot warehouse. When I was working there, somebody got killed. Somebody was driving a forklift and knocked some toilets on a guy and killed him right there in the warehouse. And I worked at a specialty hospital where all we dealt with was workman's comp. People that got injured on mill jobs, lumber jobs. A lot of people get injured in lumber jobs and mill jobs. If you working like some type of mill working with metal, or you work in a lumber job, and these are jobs that pay a lot of money and they offer a lot of overtime with no prerequisite skill. You walk on the job and they teach you everything you know right there on the job, and you start making money immediately. And you make
Why do
good
you
money.
think? Why do you think the Mizungas protect those jobs so much from us?
But those jobs are dangerous.
So
They're highly dangerous. You run a high probability of losing a limb, losing a hand. It's very those jobs. It's common to see folks in those jobs losing fingers, losing a limb.
Same thing with I have a cousin who works in the oil fields in Pennsylvania, and he fell moving something and broke one leg and sprained the other, and I mean has spent like a year and a half trying to get recovered. So, but I mean the pay is really good. He was talking about you had guys in high school who had just gotten out of high school making six figures, but it is dangerous.
Well, that's what I used to recruit in the industrial steel industry. That's where my human resources background comes from, and that industry is a bit more regulated, right? So a lot of the mills that I staffed, I had 5 across the United States that I staffed, and some of them were union shops, some of them weren't, but we had one mill where an explosion occurred, because when you're doing when you're processing the ore, you have these huge diodes that go into the furnace pit. And what it does is it injects an electrical shock into the molten ore. And then what it does is that shock then separates the metals within, right?
Yeah, that's how aluminum is separated.
Exactly. But every time that process happens, there is a risk of an explosion happening, right? And one of my sites, man, it happened, and a dude that I had recruited 3 months prior ended up passing away.
Yeah, and that's typically why you find many of these metal refineries. That's why they're typically near bodies of water, because you need hydroelectricity to generate enough the energy in order to create those electrical currents that can separate those metals from their ore.
Right.
Or no pun intended, or they'll have it offshore. So that way there's certain the regulation a little bit different offshore. And I didn't know this. I knew some guys that were in Houston that work offshore, and they said working onshore and offshore at the same company, the regulations are a little bit different.
They're different because one is terrestrial and one is maritime. Because the mill, one of my mills was down in Beaumont, which is right down there in the Gulf.
I know where Beaumont is. Yep, I've been.
My dad's from Beaumont. Yep. Hell yeah, that's where my dad's born and raised, man.
Go ahead, Johnny Blaze. Go ahead, bro.
I said no. Here in Virginia, we have the Navy shipyard where they build the ships. Is here.
Was that down in Northport?
Yeah, Norfolk. Yeah, we got
we
got like 3 or 4 shipyards here. They build an aircraft carrier, submarines.
And we got a shipyard here in Bremerton, Washington.
Now they have their own medical, their own like little clinic, literally on each of the shipyards. So, and I mean, they take a lot of guys directly out of high school, those internship program, apprenticeship programs, welders. They'll teach you everything right there. And like, once again, the money is fairly good from what I understand, but that's the biggest employer probably in this area.
You know how you can tell if the money's good at some of these jobs that don't require just barely a high school education. If you go out to the parking lot and you look at the cars,
I was no on that one because I mean you can get a car on credit. I mean
that's how I knew from these warehouse jobs. I mean all those dudes had box Chevys, 26s on it, brand new Mustangs, Camaros. That's how you could tell.
Now, Triz, up there in Washington, that's notorious for like longshoremen and things like that. Unionized. Are those? I mean,
check this
is that
out,
still
right?
a good area? It's good area now.
Check this out. If you meet a Samoan out here, male or female, you run into a Samoan, guaranteed they work at the airport or they're a longshoreman. All of them, because they just so big. They naturally big. I'm not.
What is it about Samoans? What is it about Samoans in the airport?
No.
Jesus, let Triz finish.
My bad.
Yeah.
No, I would have said they built for like I know female baggage handlers and I know I've taken a couple flights out there. I look out the window, it's some Samoan woman throwing bags like one arm, just tossing them motherfuckers.
Oh God. Okay.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah, because in Dallas, they're all at the airport too.
Well, again, and so like for example, a lot of folks like here, if you're in the Midwest, specifically you're in the Great Lakes states, so like Wisconsin, Illinois, and one of the things that they were famous for was the meat packing and shipping. And so again, people who typically worked in these jobs, well, these are very dangerous jobs. These folks in these jobs commonly lost fingers or got really, really severe lacerations that for many of them were career ending in many respects. And so, again, these yes, while I'm okay with these more blue collar jobs, but blue collar jobs inherently carry a higher risk for physical injury than your vast majority of jobs that you will work that would require a college degree or baccalaureate degree or higher.
And like we said, they tear your body, they wear your body down too.
But Doctor,
and that's why the military is a young man's game.
Not only that, a lot of these jobs they don't want black males in it anyway. So even though it's a hazard, a lot of these guys know, these white boys know that that's all they got going that keep you from being them. So
I can't, dude, no, I can't buy that shit. I was a recruiter.
Are you serious?
No.
A lot of these union jobs, they don't know.
Yeah, no. That the five shops that I staffed, right? You want to know how many brothers I employed? Do you think the hiring managers gave a damn? Here's what it was.
Historically, it did. I don't know.
But what I'm saying is, let's look at what the actual industrial environment calls for. It calls for people, right, to have the ability to work this type of job long term. And I'm going to explain to you why. The type of dudes who typically would do the type of work that I would hire for, like in a steel mill, okay? Mm-hmm. These dudes might have come from like military backgrounds. Now, the first challenge was me having to translate their rank or their grade, right? And I had to basically translate it over to a more traditional job description. So, for example, the job descriptions would always say, okay, has this type of work experience, spent this many years doing this, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, there would be somebody in the military, and let's just say, like, they used to tear down boilers on a damn nuclear sub. Okay, do you realize that person in the military actually knows more and has more abilities to do the job than what the actual job requirement calls for? However, the hiring managers were ignorant to this. They didn't understand like military, like what your, you know, your E something, whatever, and then what your description was and everything that it entailed. What we would come to find is that there were a lot of brothers that were coming out of the military who did this type of stuff, okay, and they didn't have any clue that these type of jobs they would be they would be eligible for. Now, see, me being a savvy recruiter, guess what I have to do? I gotta recruit candidates. Why? Because down in Beaumont, where we just talked about, you got the Valero refinery, you have the Exxon refinery, you got all these damn refineries and mills and all that kind of stuff. And guess what these people do? They poach employees from other places. Why? Because there's a lot of turnover, as we've been talking about. So you know what? It was actually quite easy to employ brothers into these positions
Were those
because the
union?
turnover was so high.
Yeah, and with that complex, I do agree with that. I do agree that, you know, that is very true. I do want to respond to one quick comment in the chat
Go ahead.
about nursing. Look, nursing is a very competitive field. I mean, that is true. Yeah, you can make a lot of money as a nurse. Most nurses I know, they started making six figures about a year and a half after graduation. I mean, it is one of the few fields that, you know, if you do get an associate's degree, for example, yes, you can very quickly start making six figures. You know, not a whole lot of jobs where you can do that. That requires a degree. And so, but what I do want to say, yeah, a lot of people go for it, but that's the point. Nursing is one of the fastest growing fields in the country. It is the fastest growing field. If you go to BLS right now, the two of the fastest growing fields the three fastest growing fields right now is nurse practitioners at about a 40-some% rate, physician assistants at around a 30-some% rate, and software engineers at around, I think it was around 26%. And so if you look at that, if you look at even your top 10 most in-demand occupations right now, healthcare tends to dominate at least four or five of those positions. And so again, yeah, it's competitive, but the thing about nursing, what black men are not understanding, they're practically begging to get brothers in it.
One addendum to that. One addendum to that is that the figures you're quoting are a bit misleading, because healthcare is already at a deficit. So you can probably double those numbers as far as demand.
I was going to say, because you got a lot of people leaving the space right now, right?
But not only leaving the space.
I think that's COVID induced.
Retiring too.
Yeah.
There's always been a deficit. Even like in the glory days, there was never enough nursing staff. So that's why they're always trying to figure out ways to like redo the matrix and introduce like non-licensed personnel to kind of stretch out the nurses. But you're already at a severe deficit, and then you add that to the fact that you know, people are constantly leaving the field, whether it be through injury, whether they just want to get out of it, they switch careers, or they retire. Like,
yeah, it's the oldest.
It's
one of the oldest professions in America as far as just average age.
Last year we had a unit. I want to say it was oncology. We had an oncology unit. Last year there was 12 nurses just from that one unit that retired. And so they were like begging. They had to do like an emergency like internship, because like these nurses, like they like it was like unexpected. It might have been because of COVID, but like all these nurses just retired, boom, right off the bat. And they were like experienced nurses. They knew what they were doing, and they carried a lot of the weight for the unit. And so they all retired at the same time, and so they had to do like an emergency, and it was crazy.
Recruitment.
Well, I think part of that. I think part of that is simply because it goes back to what I was saying earlier about. Typically, most folks do tend to move away from nursing after a few years. And most specifically, if you're in like areas like oncology, acute care, these are really high stress specialties. I mean, you're going to be under a lot of stress all the time. And certainly with oncology, because that requires a whole set of qualifications that you know, even acute care nurses don't have, for example, where, you know, you're going to constantly be dealing with people who are dying from cancer, who are sick with cancer, stuff like that. And so that does take its toll on you mentally after a period of time. And so that's what you're looking at. But what the numbers that they specifically quoted at BLS were for PAs and NPs. That's the difference. It wasn't for nursing profession as a whole. And yes, there's always been a deficit in nursing. That will never change. But the problem is that nursing, the occupation in of itself, is looking for more men. And they've been pretty damn aggressive at trying to get more Black men specifically into nursing. And right now, the current head of the ANA is a Black man, and he's one of the few healthcare professionals in the country that's actually certified through Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Medicine and Management.
Yeah,
so,
I was going to add to Dr. Phoenix. Like I said, my aunt's a nursing director, and she teaches clinicals on the side. And she says another problem is the educational institutions in some state, they don't have enough teachers just to turn out the nurses that they need.
Well, the problem is that because teaching doesn't pay. let's just be clear here.
If Triz and Dr. Phoenix, y'all want a part-time job, let me know.
No, that's what my aunt did. Literally, she did clinicals part time, and it was decent money on the side for while you're being a nurse manager, if you don't mind working on the weekends every.
No, this ain't the clinicals. No, we need folks like to teach some of these classes.
Oh, instructors. Okay.
Yeah, because man, we're in the meetings every week. Y'all know any nurses who want to come teach? Anybody who can teach meds?
Well,
Wow,
I mean, like
really?
here's the problem. Here's the problem.
Really?
You got if you want me to teach, you got to pay my rate.
There it is.
Exactly.
See, the issue is that I could work my job that I'm at and like pick up days that like I could work any day of the week. Like I got unlimited overtime where I'm at. I'm in ICU, and then I work the COVID unit too. So I could clean up, and I could still place pick lines. So like I'm good. And so when I pick up extra hours at my job, it's overtime hours, or it's pandemic pay too. We get pandemic pay. I mean, it's like you really got to make it really appealing for me to go somewhere else and work. Like personally, I don't understand people who have 2 and 3 jobs when it's just so much more efficient to work one job and get overtime.
Why you hating, Triz? Why you hating, bro?
I think Triz, you gotta look at some job. Like if you're in a position that's salary, you have no choice. Like I mean, I'm a salary employee, so there is no overtime or anything like that. Then I'll work a second job, because from what I understand, and you guys may be able to correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I know 2 ladies, both of them are nurse. One's a regular OB nurse or critical care. The other one is a nurse practitioner. But the regular nurse actually makes more money than the nurse practitioner because she's salary.
Yeah, and that's common, and because and that goes back to that negotiating factor for nurse practitioners. This has long been a problem for nurse practitioners in particular, is that most nurse practitioners are really crappy negotiators. So, and companies do try to pigeonhole them into salaries, because if you pay them an effective rate, it would probably be more applicable to around $80 to $120 some dollars an hour, depending on what area they're in.
But you know what? You know what I think, Dr. Phoenix? Because I know a couple of nurse practitioners, and I know there's one nurse practitioner in particular. I know Vlad, Russian guy.
Vlad? You mean
he's a nurse practitioner, but he still picks up shifts on the unit because he just makes more money that way. Yeah. And from that perspective, like I think one of the things that makes nurse practitioner appealing is that you wear a long lab coat. You're kind of like you're using the medical process as opposed to nursing process. I mean, you're technically a nurse, but you're not using the nursing process. You're really using the medical process. As far as like your approach to patient care. So you're really in a different realm. So you're more on the medical side of things, and you're kind of, in company with physicians. So like from a perspective standpoint and a panache standpoint, it's almost like the difference between like a high value man, right? As a nurse, hold on for a second. Hear me out, Complex. Don't. I know you're gonna kill me, Complex. You gotta listen to this, right? Right. I'm gonna tell you, right? And Jesus know what I'm talking about, right? I make a lot of money. but I will never, as a nurse, be a high value man. Now, Dr.
That's
Phoenix,
because
as
you don't wear a
Interesting.
suit.
Interesting.
as a physician, like even as a like if Dr. Phoenix is a new grad still in the freaking in like, you know, still an intern, and he's making $50,000 a year, he's high value based on being a physician alone. It's a respected field, you know, it's recognized. When people want to ask questions, they're looking for the physician. They're not looking for the nurse. They'll look for the nurse if they can't find the physician, but they really want to talk to the doctor. Right. So from a public standpoint, and remember, this is just by this is based on what the market says. Even though we have our own individual impressions, we work in the field, we know what we do, we know what our worth is. From a public perception standpoint, as a nurse, I will never ever be high value, unless of course I'm working like as a CNO or something like that. And then I will be high value. But as a nurse, and just as a nurse, I will never be a high value. So when you look at a nurse practitioner, even though they make less money, from that perception standpoint, there's more pride in what they do because
Yeah,
people
but
look at them
Super
different.
Triz, we're gonna be doing a live stream on Friday about high value watches.
Oh yeah, okay.
Did you say high value watches?
Yeah,
horology.
we're doing a horology live stream on Friday.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
Look, Triz, you gotta wear red bottoms with your scrubs, okay? Have red bottoms with scrubs.
Red bottoms with your scrubs. Oh god.
Have the best cologne on. Get your
Listen.
scrubs.
No,
Listen,
that's
hold up. I have red bottom Alessandro Dell'Acqua and Roberto Cavalli.
Wait, I forgot to say you rock. I forgot. What did you say you rock with your which kicks do you rock on with your?
I got Bally's. I got all the high fashion stuff, but that
yeah,
doesn't
I'm saying
change
you
the
rock the
fact that I'm
Bally's
still a nurse.
with your scrubs, right? Which joints was it that you wear?
I got several joints. I got Roberto Cavalli. I got Bally. I got Alessandro Dell'Acqua. I got some Gucci.
My guy.
but at the end of the, I like to take care of my feet. But at the end of the day, I'm still a nurse. I'm still a nurse. I am not high value, and that's just reality. I'm okay with that, though. I'm okay with that.
But if you get you a pair of Aldos,
Wait, somebody had a question.
Yeah, complex. The man that's the cripple that knows crypto. I think his name is Lionel.
Yeah.
Do you have his email? I want to get in contact with the brother.
Let me get it. I'll put it in the back chat.
Okay. One thing for all the men that's up on the panel, moving forward now on the new year. Anything y'all guys have anything like in stores, or just you're just gonna leave the information as is moving forward?
Wait, say that again.
Like moving forward, starting on the new year, in regards to Black Brain Trust, how like in regards to the information that you already laid out, is it still gonna be laid out as is, or are you gonna just tweak it a little bit moving forward?
I mean, we kind of are doing the tweaking now because what we're actually moving to is more of a visual as well as physical application model.
Okay.
So it was kind of like we took the first couple of years to really kind of do like the deep dives in terms of the conversations and the panels and having real thorough discussions, man, that we get heated and all that kind of stuff, right? Now when we look at everything so like this live stream that we did today, right? So this one was specific to an outline that Johnny Blaze did. But when it comes to just say like overall like certification and IT and all that kind of stuff, right? We've done so many live streams on it, and I was talking with Mike about this. It's like up until this point, we've already covered everything. There's nothing new to add to that part of the conversation for right now. Okay. For right now. So there's no need for us to talk about it right now. Right now. Okay. So there's other things that really we don't have to talk about right now. Okay. I would say that. So for example, MOT's been having a lot of the political based dialogues that used to happen here. Right. That's just that's this channel like spreading out. Right. So if that's happening on MOTs and like the conversation is being engaged there, and let's look at what was happening with Lionel. Unfortunately, his channel was taken down. I think
Yeah,
it was
I was
over
aware of
some
that.
legit bullshit. Okay, because
Yeah.
he was the outgrowth of the crypto conversation here. So we didn't really have to talk about it as much because now you got an SME who's got a whole entire channel on it. Matter of fact, let me get his channel and post it.
Yeah, I was going to ask Complex,
yeah.
is it just like a strike or is it down permanently?
No, dude.
It was
killed him.
completely
They
removed.
nuked
And
not well, they nuked his prime. So he had two channels. There was on investing and on crypto, and both of them were attached to the same email account. And so they nuked the YouTube channels that were associated with that email, which was both of them.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And Complex.
Yeah.
And the interesting about that, because he was on BGS a few days ago mentioning that, and like he said that throughout the many videos covering cryptocurrency, that once you have it running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, yeah, that will give time for the algorithm to catch on to certain things, and that's why they might have found some that they said information should not be hold on, information should not be put out. That's why they might have terminated it. Because think about it, he been doing videos on this for some time now, and they never hit it then. But when you have it running where somebody could come across information, now it's going to open eyes. Because when you have things running constantly for like a whole 24 hours, 7 days a week, somebody's going to catch on to information.
Here's what happened. Here's what happened. So it was so he and I was the one that kind of hatched the plan to go 24/7.
Yep.
Okay. And when he did it, he launched it, and it was doing kind of what it was doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I woke up, I think it was like maybe 2-3 weeks ago. I woke up on a Sunday morning, and dude, Lionel had like 5,000 viewers.
There you go.
And I
there you go.
texted him and I said, Lionel, dude, look, check your view count, dude. This is and I took a screenshot and I texted to him. And then he was like, we couldn't explain it.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't explain it. But what you're talking about, I'm like, all right, dude, I can tell you about what happened. I got up in the morning and I saw how many live viewers were on his 24/7 stream. And I was like, what the fuck? And then
they were commenting, right?
And I texted to him. Yeah. And then I said, hey, dude, look at this. And then for the next 2 hours, we watched the number come back down.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got on the phone. We were just like, dude, what was that? And we just agreed, like, yo, we tripped the algorithm with that one. So it was however it was. And mind you, I was streaming his stuff 24/7 on this channel, and I used the same. Like I said, we got on the phone, we talked about this, and then we went and did it. And I had his stream playing on this channel too, 24/7. So there were two channels, okay, that were streaming his stuff, and it was all tagged the same way. So I don't know.
But
I stopped these 24/7 streams for the time being, because I don't know what the hell happened. We don't know.
When you say trip the algorithm, you mean like it got put in people's recommendation and people came to the channel?
We have no idea. All I know is I woke up. Go ahead, Chaos.
It's like this, and that's something maybe I should probably do as well, depending on what I have. But like I said, if you have more than, let's say, a couple, like 500 or more videos, because y'all been doing live streams every day, and you do the amount, and you run it on a 24-hour, 7-day basis, you're gonna attract certain attention, especially you talking about cryptocurrency, because a lot of people right now are finding ways now to make money now. So if you put something out there that people have not really examined, and it's labeled that, somebody's going to watch the material, and you're going to get somebody to share it, because now if you're saying the information right, then it's going to draw attention. And like always, anything more than 1,000 viewers on any live stream will bring attention. If you get 5K people watching, now it could be a red flag.
But the thing was that, dude, it was literally a temporary spike. This only happened over the course, and I don't want to talk about this too much, dude, but
yeah,
it happened over the course of maybe like 2 hours, and he and I both watched it, and then when it went back down, we got on the phone and we were trying to figure out what happened. Okay, so it only happened for a short amount of time. Out of nowhere, it went up to a ton of viewers, and then it went right back down to what was normal, and that was that. And we were kind of just sitting there scratching our heads, like, okay, what just happened?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so
Lonnie
and then
started
after
saving
that,
the
he got
videos.
over 1,000 subs, and then the bullshit happened.
Yeah. You know, Lonnie started doing what a lot of people should be doing anyway. If you're doing videos, you're gonna have to get their hard drive and save all your material. You should not base on the system to save it. I don't trust their system. I save everything on my own
Well, the
devices.
thing is that Lionel. So just so you know, what he did, he didn't lose the videos. He lost the channel. Okay, so that's what
So
it
he could
was.
just replay it back. Yeah. Okay.
Well, we don't know if he puts something back up. That's the thing. So we're not. That's why I don't want to really get too deep into it.
I think we're kind of off topic here.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't want
All
to
right.
really.
Well, do me this complex. Just give me his email. I'll try to hit him up. Just send it back chat right now.
Yeah,
I need
just-
right now.
just go ahead and
I'm gonna
hit him
jump
up,
off
man.
here. So, yeah.
Okay.
Continue
All right, no
talking,
problem. Hold on 1 second. All right. So here's what I want to do, man. We're coming up on 11:30 my time. We've been at about 3 hours here. I have another esports live stream scheduled in a couple hours, and it's gonna be like a Q&A. So I was gonna do another like just demo and a Q&A, like a little panel thing.
Can the 20-year-old Ajisa come?
Sure.
Hey, you know what? You know what's interesting about that? Because I thought, I heard you guys talking about it earlier, Complex.
Mhm.
Many of your 4-year schools actually do have like esports teams.
Right. That's why I want to do another live stream on it, man.
And it's kind of interesting because even at my alma mater, they had like esports teams and stuff like that. They started out as little clubs and then they just became like full-fledged esports teams or whatever. And so you're starting to see a lot of your 4-year institutions invest more into the esports genre. So hey,
It's dude, it's in line with everything that's fourth industrial, right? And so what we're trying to do is make sure that that we have an awareness, right? Because I this is why like these tropes of what the past has done and how we don't have this and can't do this, and I'm like, okay, the future's different.
I do want to say something because
Go ahead, you got it, dude.
I know
you got it. Go ahead, bro.
I know Super Triz was. I know he wasn't necessarily speaking tongue in cheek, but this idea that if you're making well over 6 figures, because I know he's in that Seattle area making just cleaning up, and somehow just because
he's not high value.
You're not a director of you're not a director or a VP of operations or something. You're not high value. My personal take on it, you only got to be better than the last dude she was with. So that's
look. That's why I was like, well, here's what we're gonna do, because he and I we have a horology live stream. We put together for Friday.
Like silly talk, man. I mean,
yeah, I know. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at very nice watches as non-high value men. That's what we're gonna do.
I mean, to me, it's just interesting because I think was it last summer I was talking about how you had all these so-called, for example, women that were graduating from medical schools, and there were videos of them twerking at graduation. They're on stage twerking and getting snatched off the stage by the deans.
I mean,
I'm trying to understand if your idea of a high value means you have this certain job position or title, and then you're making 6 figures, we'll say over 120, whatever, and over a period of a few years, for example. I don't know very many nurses who don't make at the very low end on the 6 figures.
Well, I think the issue is that income is just one component of high value. There are other things. Actually, there's
your LinkedIn network account.
Essentially, what he really should be is getting at is socioeconomic status, because that's where you start looking at people's educational level, what their parents' educational level is, income, network, all of those other things come into play versus just a dollar amount of income.
Well, I think the big issue is that here's the big misconception about this whole high value conversation. The women don't care about high value. They care about income and whether or not you're going to support their lifestyle. And that's what I've been trying to get at for the longest. They don't care how much money. They don't care like where you get your money from, all that stuff. I mean, what they want is somebody that's going to supplement or subsidize or support their lifestyle. And so if you make a certain amount of money, you have more disposable income to do that. For me, personally, like I said, I don't consider myself high value from a societal standpoint. I'm not perceived to be high value. I'm okay with that because at the end of the day,
you just in the high value stuff.
When I go to the bank, it's there.
Is that what you're just into the stuff?
But nursing is a respected profession. Like that's my thing. Is like it's not like you're just working a bunch of hours. You're just a regular hourly worker.
Too, there's a lot of misconceptions about nursing, and certainly what nurses get paid. Typically, men in nursing do make a bit more than women, and that's simply put because they're willing to put in the time. It's quite frank with that.
I just don't know. I was just getting at the fact that, like I said, nursing from everyone that I would talk to would be considered a very respectable profession.
Well, it is. It is. Again, for me, my goal, I knew from the time when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a physician. Now, I had some detours along the way. So for me, what I'm doing is just really a continuation of something that I always wanted to do. Now, yes, granted, being a physician, just the simple fact of you even uttering that word out of your mouth and a woman even being in your space, she automatically moves 4 or 5 rungs up that socioeconomic ladder. Hell, just the network alone is enough to catapult her into a whole stratosphere. To a whole different stratosphere. So again, but that takes time. It takes 12, 15 years for someone to become a physician. That's assuming you go straight to college out of high school and you go straight to medical school after undergrad. Most people don't do that unless you came from typically wealthier families. Hence what I was saying yesterday about fields like attorneys and physicians were typically those careers were typically reserved for the elites.
Mm-hmm.
Because those were the only folks that could afford to send their children to those schools to learn those professions. But again, this is the beauty of me being having been in the military. I've been able to afford to do a lot of things and pay for and not have undergrad debt, so I can go to medical school and not have like the crap loads of debt that most medical students have, and that includes white students. Yeah. Now, granted, if you go to one of these top tier medical schools, some NYU or Cornell or something, those two schools are offering free tuition for students. But those are schools that literally have 1 or 2% acceptance rates, and so literally you're getting the top 99 percentile of students.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned this on another live stream some while back, Dr. Phoenix, but you were talking about how long it takes. I think you hit the nail on the head. We were talking about it a while ago that, people really don't start making lots of money until their 30s. So that's the other thing people have to remember is that when you start looking at these professions, the payoff is not going to be in the first 5 to 6 years. It's going to be more in the 10, 15, 20-year period.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're looking at, like, for example, physicians, most physicians do not start making real money well into their 40s and 50s. Most physicians' highest earning power, and this is true of men in general, is typically mid 40s into their 50s and into their 50s, early 60s. That's where you see that big influx of money. Why? Because that early part of your career, you're paying off a crap load of debt.
And cutting your teeth in your profession outside of the academic setting. And that's what I was trying to get at too when I was talking about when you start looking at, a non-college profession versus others, is that's where you're going to see that big payoff is over the years when that gap starts to grow in pay. And you see some people who may work in a more physically demanding environment, they may face some job insecurity versus you as a professional or in your prime earning years.
No, absolutely, and I will absolutely agree with that. And the pay ceiling is higher for those professions that typically require college degrees. So yes, the pay ceiling is higher, but the payoff you're looking at the payoff in in terms of decades, and not really so much as even just a period of a few years. And so again, for physicians, you know, most physicians are not high value men. I mean, again, if we want to, we care to use this term. I mean, initially, a medical student is not a high value
I think
man.
that
Yeah,
Very
you can
high
tell it
value
to
debt.
I think that definition is kind of juvenile though, because in the sense that limits that whole it limits the career. If we're talking about in perspective to careers, it limits to like 5 professions: physician, lawyer,
yeah, but even
engineer.
even those positions, like lawyers, for example, lawyers have a high level of debt, and this is especially true with lawyers, where if you're a
Yeah, they
lawyer,
don't
you
even
don't
make.
go to a top tier law school. You
Yeah,
gonna come out doing some damn community law, making 60, 70 grand a
Yes.
year.
Listen,
exactly.
I'm talking to a woman right now. She's Jewish, right? She's a Jewish woman. Her parents are
Oh,
wealthy.
Dixon.
Her parents are wealthy. Her parents
Oh.
are wealthy.
My
Um, uh,
man.
Where did you meet her?
huh?
Where did you meet her?
I just met her out. Like I just happened to be. I didn't know she was a lawyer. She told me this like after we had already been talking for a while. You know what I mean? But I mean, but you could tell that that she comes from well because just her whole demeanor and the way she dresses, all that stuff. But the thing about it is that she went to law school. She's a lawyer, and she's a public defender. She
Yeah.
doesn't make no damn money, and
Wait a minute. Wait a
she
minute,
works
Triz.
insane hours too.
Wait a minute, Triz. I thought you were talking to a CT tech. Which one is it?
I've been talking to her for a couple years. Like, so I've been, I spent plates. So, but
He's a man on the move.
yeah, I spent plates. But I mean, but that's the thing. Like you think like a lot of these people that work in these fields, like a lot of lawyers don't make a lot of money, and then like physicians, for instance, at the beginning of their careers.
You
Not only
broke.
are they saddled with debt, they're not making money as interns. They make like 50,000-60,000 a year as an intern.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, of course, their income scales once they get out of that period. And then depending on the specialty, they can make a lot of money. But at the end of the day, it's about public perception. That's a big key point in high value. Like if you're talking to a group of people and they ask you what you do, I don't care how much money I make as a nurse. What do you do? Oh, I'm a nurse. Oh, okay.
But
What do you do? I'm a lawyer. Oh,
it's
really?
smoke. But then
And like
it's
their eyes light up. That's just what it is. It
it's
is what
smoke
it
and
is.
mirrors, though. Here's the problem. It's smoke and mirrors, though. That makes. I mean, to sit there and talk about what people's perception is, especially people that are ignorant of
I'm go.
The
I'm go.
the
market,
realities of.
the market's perception. It's about
No,
the
and
market.
Super
At the
Triz
end
is
of the day,
right.
it's always about what the market wants.
But
No, and Super
they're
Triz is
judging off
correct.
the top percentile because even what you're
Look, this
saying
is a
about
this is a
lawyers,
term. This is a term that just came into the lexicon about 6 months, maybe a year, 8 months ago.
yeah,
No one was saying
What
it's
term is
like
that? What term is that?
high value. That's
Oh
that
God,
just
that's a trademark of a social media brand that
exactly.
belongs
That's
to
what I'm
a
saying.
person whose
It
name
just
rhymes with 7 granules.
that's what I'm saying. It just came into our
I think you can
lexicon. So
argue that that term has been widely used even in the military when you had high value targets, HVTs. It's just been adapted for more of a
Yeah,
social
yeah, but
media.
it doesn't have a
So
definition. It
there,
really doesn't
there's
have a
no one
definition.
person that has a trademark on that term. But I do want to say this because Super Triz is right. It is the perception that gets people. But again, I don't give a damn how many. I don't give a damn how many folks out here call themselves lawyer, black women call themselves lawyer, whatever. Most of them are not making the big bucks. Again, if you're a lawyer, this is really true for lawyers because you
big
can be a
law.
physician and you can go to a mid tier or even a lower tier medical school and you will still come out making a lot of damn money. And
Yep.
the longer you're in that field, the more your income is going to scale. And eventually you will surpass people who've been in their careers for 10, 15 years. You will surpass them in half that time. And so the problem is for lawyers, if you don't go to one of these big time law schools, one of these Ivy League law schools, for example, where they
Yeah.
have connections in the field with law firms, and you can come out of those schools picking up those $250,000 a year jobs. Most of you are, or you don't get the connections where you can go into the DA, you can go into the district attorney's office,
Yep.
and then you can move over into criminal law and stuff like that where you can make those big bucks. Because even folks that go into DA, you make a pretty damn good living. But if you don't have that ability, you are going to end up doing some silly community law. You might be able to get into real estate, some corporate law, something like that. But even then, those things are those fields are typically reserved for really the graduates who come from top tier schools. Unless you got a significant network that you can leverage to get you positions in those respective fields. But most lawyers come straight up out of law school making 70, 80 grand.
Yeah, because I was gonna. Yeah, no, you're right, Dr. Phoenix. If you're not in the top, really, they call them tier one law schools, which is really you have the Ivy League, and then you can get into like if you start talking about like some public Ivies, like a UVA or a Michigan or something like that. So really, probably those top 20 law schools, top 25. If it's outside of that, it just it becomes very difficult to break into the big law because they won't even look at you if you didn't go to a certain school. So then you're really left with, like you said, those type of roles, or if you want to try to branch out on your own, start your own law firm and get a big case and make a big name for yourself that way.
Yeah, and you're carrying, and let's just keep this in mind. You're still carrying medical school levels of debt, and you're not going to be coming out, and there's a high likelihood you're not going to come out making medical doctor money.
Yeah, the only thing I would say that a way to get around that a little bit is I'm in the DC area. They do have part-time law school here, which that's going to be competitive as well. But you could go into somewhere like a Georgetown part-time and work, and that way you can maintain a full-time job and get a degree on the side. And there are a couple of others in the area like George Mason, George Washington as well, where you have that option, but outside of really the DC area, that option doesn't really exist.
No, I think a lot of law schools let you do part time. I mean, because part time law school is 4 years as compared to 3 years.
Well, but here's the thing, like what Super Triz was saying about the young lady he's talking to. Yeah, she comes from a rich family, so she can afford to go be a public defender. She got some family money she can fall back on. But if you're the average black person doesn't have that, so if you went to law school, you're going to public defender, you'd be lucky you make 50 grand a year.
Yeah. What's his name? Brian Stevenson is a good story on that. He granted he went to Harvard Law, and I mean he opted to go the route he went. But I mean they were saying, I was watching a film about his life, and they were saying, his dad thought he was going to be, one of these big time lawyers that made a bunch of money, and he went more into the civil rights activist type of way. And granted,
ain't no damn money in that.
He's done well now because of the notoriety and having things like Equal Justice Initiative, so he's made it that way his own name. But if he didn't have that big break, he wouldn't be making money he's making.
He'd be making like 70, 80 grand a year.
Yeah. With Harvard Law debt.
Yeah, and so again, I'm sure in the case of Super Triz, he probably makes quite a bit more than the young lady he's talking to. But I just think, again, this goes back to the greater conversation of higher ed. Yes, higher ed typically is seen as something of a, I guess if you want to call it a high, that makes you more of a high value man. I guess, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, folks who go into these really prestigious career fields like attorneys and physicians, yeah, those are fields like for attorneys, I guess, assuming if you get a Juris Doctor, that'll take you a little bit longer. But physicians have this high barrier for entry, very hard to get into, and then it's really more of it's a marathon. It's a war. It's an attrition because eventually, we're going to see, can you really make it through this 4 years of medical school? If you decide you want to go do surgery, a general surgery residency is 5 to 6 years, because typically you get an extra year for research, depending if you choose to do that or not. And then if you look at something like neurosurgery or cardiothoracic surgery, you're looking at 6 to 7 year residency. So by the time orthopedic surgery, another big one, you're looking at about 6 years. Mm-hmm. So by the time you're done with that, you're going to be well into your 30s, maybe even your 40s. And then you might want to decide you want to go do a fellowship. So you might want to go do, you might want to be involved. Let's say you're internal medicine. You want to go do, that's 3 years. Then you want to go do a cardiology fellowship, which is one of the most competitive specialties to get into in medicine, because generally the minimum salary you make is about $500 grand a year for a cardiologist. And so, but that's so hard to get into. But then that's another 2 years. But then you decide you want to go do a fellowship on top of that, like interventional cardiology. That's where you do a lot of procedures and stuff. You put in pacemakers and stuff like that. And now you're looking at another year, maybe even 2 on top of that initial fellowship. So by the time it's said and done, you done close to 9 years of combined residency and fellowship on top of the 8 years of education. So you're going to be well into your 30s and 40s, and you're carrying a crap load of debt, $600,000 worth of debt. You go to Georgetown Med, for example, that's about 90 grand a year.
Yeah.
Not to mention the compromise on your work-life balance. Like you're spending an insane amount of hours, and then especially like you start talking about a lot of people get into cardiology because at some point they want to be in private practice where the real money is at, right?
Yeah,
and because they want to be able to leverage that private practice to have a better work-life balance. But in order to get to that point, again, you got to put in an insane amount of time initially to get that practice to where it's kind of on cruise control. You start getting nurse practitioners and physician assistants in there to kind of help you out. But, so by the time that's all said and done, you're like 45 and you don't have a relationship to speak of. And so now you're trying to backpedal, and you don't have that relationship experience, but then you're trying to play catch up on that, on your life. I see a lot of physicians like that. They're very, very accomplished, but they've compromised, work-life balance. But from a public perception, they got it made. And again, like that's what I'm talking about. I mean, we understand the nuances of this because we work in this field, and those that don't work in this field know people who do. And so because of that, we understand, what exactly it entails to be that. But from a public standpoint, they look at this as it's just glamorous. This is like, you're a doctor, you're rich. I mean, that's and like even like some of the nurses that I work with, some of these young nurses, right? Like, you see them, as soon as a doctor comes in, like they lose their money, damn near faint. They damn near faint.
And you're absolutely correct in that regard. And again, I think,
real quick, Dr. Phoenix, some of these interns, listen, they come on the floor looking like zombies. They haven't had sunlight in I don't know how long. They're already in Washington. There's no sun up here. Then they in the hospital all the time. They look like zombies. They emaciated, muscle loss and muscle wasting. They look crazy, but they're a physician.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's why when I typically talk about healthcare careers, why I don't typically talk about medicine, because that's for a very specific kind of person. You either this is something you want or you don't want it. You have to be dedicated to it because there's some major sacrifices you're going to have to make to get that. But also more importantly, again, when it comes to that, I have yet to meet a physician who did not meet the woman that they're with when they were a broke undergrad or medical student. Not one time. Every single physician I know that is married, they all met their spouses when they were either in undergrad or in their early years of medical school. And so again, that this idea of high value, and again, I think is a big ass misnomer, but
you're hitting on something though, Dr. Phoenix, and that's that people don't get married to people outside their socioeconomic status. It rarely happens, and usually in instances that it does, it usually won't work.
Yeah, and this is, and again, I think part of that conversation, even this conversation as it relates to higher ed, because you have a better chance at meeting a viable spouse when you're in those arenas of higher education. You have a better chance. The numbers just work out that way. But again, I don't know. I don't want to. I know this is.
No. Even though we went down this rabbit hole, and I remember we had this conversation a couple weeks back, and someone in the chat was saying, "Oh, these women, they have men back home," and I'm just like, are y'all really going to sit up here and make this argument that someone who's a black male going to college is not going to have options for women when you have some of these campuses that are 70% women?
Well, I personally talked about, I've had clinical instructors that literally try to hook me up with their daughters. I mean, this is the craziness. I mean,
Check
just
this
in
out, Dr.
general.
Phoenix.
What's up?
The dean of my associate degree nursing program tried to talk to me. Like, she pulled me in the office. She asked me for my number. And she wanted to get together. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not. I was almost tempted because it was a black woman. She wasn't that old. She wasn't that old at the time. I think she was probably like 40, and I was like, in my 20s, and she was top heavy. I'll just say that. But and she wasn't ugly, but and then mind you, I was already dealing with a couple of students in the class with me, because these girls, they want to study, because they look at you, they're like, Dan, like how you take the test and you done in like 5 minutes, and you getting good grades. I want to come study with you, and they come back to the house and they because I'm already working. A lot of these girls, they hadn't, this is like they first foray into a career. But me, I had already been an LVN. I already had my house. I was set. You know what I mean? So they come over the house and they like looking around like, uh-oh. Let me, you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I had a lot of fun in nursing school. I'm gonna just put it like that.
I did too. When I went to nursing school, man, it was fun, man. The early part of it, man, I had a damn good time, man. I had swirlers trying to get at me, white females in my face. It was there. So again,
okay. I think
so
we kind of.
I'm not even about to go. I'm not even about to go there. And that was kind of.
Yeah.
And I've kind of mentioned that I would say this much. I would say this much. When you're a black man and you're in healthcare, period, you typically are kind of looked at as sort of a high value dude, because you're really the unicorn.
That's why I'm kind of like, I kind of stay out of those convos, man, because I know what my experience has shown me.
It really no, and I completely understand that, and it is kind of sort of silly talking. A lot of it is just kind of really a misnomer of sorts. But just in general, my general experience, moving in higher education in general, man, you typically as a black man, you typically kind of do get looked at as that high value guy, if you will.
This is why I'm pretty mean to all the students. Don't come near me. Stay away from me. You have no feelings. You're damn right. I have none.
Hey, look, we're on 3 hours 30 minutes. I gotta shut it down. I gotta get lunch together, and then I'm gonna do a sim. I was planning to do some sim content today anyway. So
I wanted to quickly, before we go, I wanted to quickly add, this will be my last piece. One thing I don't know if we talked about in general, but we were kind of getting to it, was the networking aspect of higher education. That just, if you're in one of those fields that's in demand, you always have, there are alumni groups. When you put your resume out there, people are a lot more willing to help you when they see that, oh, he's an alumni of my school. So that's another element that if you forego the higher education route, you can sometimes miss out on. That is not as explicitly stated, but is a big benefit.
Yeah, professional peer, professional peers.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you developed from college. Absolutely.
Well,
that's the big pool for the Ivy League in general, is that, when you talk at like an Ivy League business education, it's like, it's some very accomplished people, but the big thing is you get in contact with those people and you hopefully build a relationship, and 10 years down the road, this person may be the head of this company or is founding something, and if you want to reach out to them, you have that relationship.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And that goes back to what I said before, which is that you don't go to college for the damn degree, you go for the damn network. The network is what's going to get you that career and what's going to get you ahead in life. It's not really the degree. The degree is more like it's just part of a checklist.
I haven't interviewed in 20 years because I used to work in the Department of Defense on these contracts that they spread out. When the job opens, they just reach out to you like, hey, this job opening, do you want it?
So, all right. And that's how it often works. But thanks. Thanks, Complex, brother. Thanks for having me on. Good to hear from you again, Tris.
See you. How about you, doctor? Everybody have a good weekend, man.
All right, man. All right, high value panel.
Good holiday, fellas. Good holiday.
Yeah. No, we're gonna be.
I'm not high value. I'm great value, like Walmart.
Great value, true value, like the hardware store.
He's real value.
Real value.
Thanks, Complex. I'll catch you later.
All right, no problem. No, we'll be live in a couple hours, man. We're gonna do some Sims stuff here, and we're gonna have a Q&A and all that. So yeah, I'm just gonna get some lunch together, man. You know, take care of a couple things, and we'll see y'all in a bit. Okay.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot, Complex, man. Take care.
Hey, Johnny Blaze, once again, man, I appreciate you. Let's do it again, man.
Hey, absolutely.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.